Chapter 581. The world is so big. There are all kinds of strange things. So Xiaoduo was amazed. What a fucking eye-opener. First, he saw a centipede that was hundreds of meters long. But it was a monster king, so it was reasonable for it to have a huge body. But now, he saw an earthworm that was more than 30 meters long. How dare an earthworm be more than 30 meters long? It doesn't matter how big the earthworm is. Xiao Long said, "This thing doesn't have much fighting power. As long as we use the Flaming Sun Sutra, we can roast it to death." Xiao Long's face was full of disgust and disdain. How could there be such a disgusting thing in the world? I was wondering why it was swimming so leisurely underground. It was eating and pooping at the same time. It swallowed all the soil in front of it, and as it crawled, it kept excreting from its tail. Blurg. It was so disgusting. The giant earthworm wriggled its way over. Its body was huge, but in terms of fighting power, there was nothing to see. It was just a big body, and it was puffy. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't expect that the Flaming Sun Sutra would burn its head off as soon as he used it. Its whole body automatically broke into 70 or 80 pieces, and it fled in 70 or 80 different directions, fleeing for its life. That with a splash, the entire underground was filled with puddles of water. Was this the result of burning its head? Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. Is this a ferocious beast that guards the treasure of heaven and earth? Zhou Xiaoduo tilted his head and looked at Xiao Long. He saw that Xiao Long was also stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect this guy to be so weak. Even if it was an earthworm, it was still an earthworm that was dozens of meters long. How could it disappear after a touch? What kind of explanation was this? What's this? Zhou Xiaoduo picked up a shiny round stone from the ground. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly thought, is this an inner core? No. Xiao Long came over to take a look, but he couldn't recognize it. He said, this thing? I've never seen it before. The energy on it is very strange, but if I'm not wrong, it should be this thing that caused this earthworm to grow so abnormally. But it seems to only grow its head, not its strength. It doesn't seem to be of any use. Zhou Xiaoduo also felt that the bead contained a mysterious energy. However, now was not the time to think about this. He casually stuffed it into his spatial ring and decided to ask when Xingtian or Grandma Sure when he got back. Then, he continued to dig down. Since the earthworm had returned in such a hurry, it meant that the soul-tempering vermilion fruit was about to arrive. Sure enough, after digging for less than 10 meters, they found a pitch-black object. It looked like a fruit that was growing in the soil. However, there seemed to be a layer of black smoke surrounding the fruit, isolating it from the soil. He gently rubbed it. It was as if there were stars twinkling in the dark night. Even though it was underground, this kind of twinkling was still eye-catching. It's really good stuff. So Xiaoduo praised. Looking at it closely, he found that the fruit was connected to a fruit branch that seemed to be flowing with starlight. So Xiaoduo directly dug a huge hole and isolated the entire soul-tempering vermilion fruit. Then he broke the soil bit by bit. After a long while, it was finally separated completely. One tree with 9 branches. On each branch, there was a fruit. There were 9 fruits in total. However, the trunk of this soul-tempering vermilion fruit was already very thick. It was almost as thick as Zhou Xiaoduo's calf. It was unknown how old it was. It seems that this soul-tempering fruit tree has already borne fruit several times. Xiao Long was also surprised, but there's plenty of energy here. It's not unusual for it to bear fruit several times. Moreover, this fruit will mature after it bears fruit. If it's not eaten, it will fall on the tree roots and become nutrients. Not a single bit will be wasted. Also, I think that earthworm's body is so huge that it must have eaten it once. Xiao Long frowned and said, it must have eaten it once. Otherwise, it wouldn't have the ability to split into 70 or 80 pieces and escape. This life-saving skill is quite impressive. So Xiaoduo curiously asked, well, isn't the ability to split the earthworm's innate ability? It has something to do with this fruit. Does this fruit have any other uses besides healing divine soul injuries? Xiao Long said, the earthworm's innate ability can't split so much. and the soul-tempering vermilion fruit's ability to heal injuries is only one of its functions. If a completely healthy person eats it, in addition to strengthening the divine soul, it also has the ability to split the soul. In other words, it can split one soul into several completely independent individuals. So Xiaoduo was confused. What do you mean? Let's put it this way. Xiaolong thought for a long time before giving an example. For example, when you go out this time, there will be great danger. But you've eaten this soul-tempering vermilion fruit before, so you can prepare in advance. You can endure a certain amount of pain and split an identical soul in advance. When you go to a safe place, if the original body and the split are fine, they can return to merge. But if the original body soul is destroyed outside, then the split soul can choose a carrier and continue to live. Its own memories and whatnot will not be lost. Of course, only memories and experience can be preserved. Cultivation can't be preserved, and it needs to be restarted. I understand. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded in realization. What you're talking about is called possession over here, Zhou Xiaoduo said, as if he was an expert. No, Xiaolong said seriously. The soul-tempering vermilion fruit's split soul state is fundamentally different from possession. Because if a person's physical body is not completely dead, his soul and body have a close and inseparable connection. If you force your way in at this time, you'll only be devoured. The soul and body are one. How can you possess it? So you can only wait until the target dies, which is when the soul completely dissipates, before another person can take advantage of the gap. As long as there's a little bit of remnant, it won't succeed. So this method also has a great risk. Xiaolong said, but just the fact that it can provide a chance to start over is very valuable. Some people call this fruit the reincarnation fruit, thinking that it can only grow in another world, but it's not, because there's no need for reincarnation at all. It had to be said that Xiaolong was very knowledgeable when it came to these heaven and earth treasures. In this aspect, even Li Qinglong was not as good as him. It was probably because as a consciousness form, it wandered back and forth in these places every day, so it was naturally very familiar with these things. It was just that it was called differently by humans, but it had its own absolutely correct understanding. But Zhou Xiaoduo was not worried about this. The more he heard about this thing, the more he felt reluctant to part with it. Isn't it a pity to leave this tree here after we pluck the fruit? It's a waste of God's gift. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Xiaolong eagerly. In the Tower of Annihilation, in our space, can we raise this tree? Xiaolong calculated and said, with the current progress of the Tower of Annihilation, it can barely keep it alive. Burying it in the new dragon vein in our space can ensure its survival. But if we want it to continue growing and bear fruit in the future, we'll have to move at least 10 earth veins in. Also, the powder you made, boss, will need a lot more, 300 to 500 times more than what we have now. Only then can it possibly grow. So Xiaoduo was relieved. As long as it can live, there's a way. They'll transplant this fruit tree completely. The jade powder of astral souls is not valuable, and after accumulating for a long time, not to mention 300 to 500 times, even 3,000 to 5,000 times more would not be a problem. Xiaolong nodded. Since you're confident, boss, then do as you wish. What Zhou Xiaoduo did not see was that the corners of Xiaolong's mouth curled up slightly. That was a very secret, happy expression. Boss, the more heavenly treasures you move in, the better the quality of the earth vein we gather. The better the earth vein, the faster my growth will be. Hehehe, that was great. Xiaolong felt very good. Not everyone could follow such a stingy, greedy boss who wanted everything. But if one's own people were greedy and coveted other people's things, it was also a good thing. Why not pack everything in one's own home? Take this fruit tree, for example. If it had followed a gentleman, it might have been left here to wait for the fated person or something like that. Look, it followed was so easily, uprooting it directly. That was the style of a stingy person like him. He watched as Zhou Xiaoduo carefully put away the 9 fruits and used 9 boxes carved from the jade powder of astral souls to store the fruits. Then he uprooted the fruit tree along with a huge lump of soil that weighed a few thousand kilograms and put it into the space of the Tower of Annihilation. Then he dug a hole in the earth vein and buried the soul-quenching fruit tree in it. The whole process was as smooth as flowing water. There was no obstruction at all, and he did it happily. As he worked, he asked humbly, Long, is there anything taboo in our earth vein that cannot be planted? Xiaolong thought for a while and said, In theory, anything can be planted. We just need to separate the heavenly treasures that are completely incompatible with each other from sufficient distance. That's good. Although they were struggling at death's door with their profound cultivation, as long as they could catch their breath, they would naturally be able to recover quickly. After they left the battle, they found a hidden valley. Coincidentally, there was enough energy here. So they hurriedly rushed down. Just like Xiaoduo, they dug out a huge hole in the ground. The four of them hid inside to heal their wounds. It was just that they didn't dig very deep. At most, it was only about 10 meters deep. To these experienced people, this was the most normal and ordinary operation. From the outside, it couldn't be seen at all. But just as the four of them took out medicine and antidotes to consume and began to wash their bodies with all kinds of spirit liquids, the medicine and poison were resisting, and they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. With a crash, the mountains on both sides directly collapsed. The four of them were at a critical moment. They couldn't move at all. Instantly, they were buried alive. The hole collapsed instantly. Countless huge stones rumbled down like rolling drums. The four of them didn't know what was going on. They dizzily went all the way down. When they reached a certain depth, suddenly, there seemed to be nothing below. It was as if they were completely weightless as they fell down. There's actually such a huge hole below. These four experienced people were all dumbfounded. They fell all the way down. Then, boom, boom, boom. They were all smashed until they were dizzy. If they were still in their peak condition, they would naturally be able to withstand the collapse of the mountain and fly out. But it was a pity that not only were they not in their peak condition, they were also at a critical moment of healing. A mouthful of vital energy was resisting the poison. They couldn't use it. It was practically the lowest point of their lives, so much, so that the four Guixian-level super experts were all smashed by the mountain rocks until their noses were bruised and their heads were bleeding. And the most terrible thing was the poison that the four of them were forcing out. Under such circumstances, a moment of distraction caused the poison to rush back. Some of it even attacked the heart meridians. The four of them were so depressed that they almost vomited blood. This time, they were really unlucky. Originally, the four of them had gone to find trouble with the centipede, wanting to make a fortune. They only went because they had enough antidotes on them. They had also made sufficient preparations. They had calculated that no matter what, their lives would not be in danger. But who would have thought that the mountain would collapse while they were in the middle of healing and forcing out the poison? This chapter costs 4,000 yuan. For updates today, looking for monthly votes, recommendation tickets, and subscriptions. Chapter 582. This was simply, completely unexpected. Now the poison was flowing backwards and the antidote pills were gone. Of course they had the normal antidote pills, but how could they prepare so many of these high-quality pills? They could only force it out. But was the poison of a king-level demon beast so easy to force out? They were buried alive and couldn't move for a while. At least, they couldn't move before the poison was forced out. The four of them felt as if they had eaten shit. As if they had eaten shit, they were speechless. But there was no other way. No matter how difficult it was, no matter how angry they were, they had to force out the poison first, feeling as if their heads were being smashed by a huge rock. The four of them were extremely sullen. Since when did they have to endure this? What a bastard. It was a pity that Xiaoduo had left early. Otherwise, they could have taken advantage of this situation. Of course, with Master's current small body, he would have died without a doubt if this kind of returnance-level expert fought back before death. It was hard to say who was the lucky one. But this side of the mountain had collapsed. Such a big movement immediately attracted the attention of some people. Xiaoduo is over there. Someone's eyes lit up. Immediately, Many people moved towards this side. Those who came early had already stepped into the rubble, carefully searching around. Some people had already found something strange. There seems to be a tunnel here. Someone dug a tunnel? Dig down and see. Duo is hiding down there. Dig quickly. Immediately, dozens of people started working at the same time. They were on guard against others while digging crazily. Huge rocks weighing thousands of kilograms were thrown out one after another. The 4 people below had a face of fuck. This time, they were unlucky to the extreme. The 4 of them couldn't move here, and there were hundreds of people happily digging up a hole that could be imagined that no matter who dug them up, they would do the same thing. Behead them, take their space rings, and leave. No one would care who they were, and no one would care. For this group of desperados, they had no scruples. What to do? At most a minute, they would be able to dig it out. Activate the life spirit protection. The leader sighed, his face full of desolation. The 4 brothers all had a miserable look on their faces. If he activated the protection of his fate soul and used his origin energy, he might be able to survive this time. But from then on, his cultivation would not improve at all. Furthermore, the worst part was that after activating his life spirit protection and using his origin energy, he had no power to suppress the Centipede Queen's poison at that moment. It would definitely invade his internal organs and heart meridians. From then on, the poison would accompany the 4 of them for life. He would spend the rest of his life in detoxification. He would live one day at a time until he died. It was all the same. Moreover, the lifespan would inevitably be greatly reduced. For example, a person who was originally able to live for 1,000 years would only have 300 years to live after such an operation. And this was the most optimistic scenario. However, if he didn't activate it, he would die here in a minute. The 4 of them could feel something called fate at work. Back then, when he was dealing with Yi Changqing, he had caused Yi Changqing's old and new injuries to erupt at the same time. Yi Changqing's origin was already damaged, so he couldn't make any progress. After that battle, he was hit by the heavenly pulse palm. He had spent the rest of his life in detoxification of the heavenly pulse palm. Until now, there was nothing he could do. Now, the 4 of them would actually become like Yi Changqing. Moreover, it was much more serious than Yi Changqing's. The 4 of them looked desolate. Could this be retribution? There were already voices above their heads. Soon. It's getting looser. Is there water coming out from below? With so many people working, there's already a hole below. Of course, it's getting looser as it dries. I'll just do it a little more. You do it a little more. Quick, put in more effort. It's almost out. It's almost out. It's out. The group of people worked in full swing. Their faces were full of excitement as they watched the hole being dug open. Everyone was almost instantly orgasmic. It was at this moment that an extremely sullen roar came from below. All the people who were working felt dazzled as golden light, flashpoint, 4 golden dragons rushed out from the ground. Sword light flashed, covering the sky in an instant. There were screams. More than a dozen people couldn't dodge in time and were killed on the spot. There were also many people who lost their arms and legs. The 4 golden dragons flashed in the air, leaving behind a sentence full of resentment. This hatred, this revenge, this life. With a boom, they disappeared impatiently. They had to find a new place to heal their injuries and cure the poison. The poison had already entered their heart meridians. The 4 of them were gloomy in their hearts. In the end, they still came to this step. But what was going on? Who was the one who framed them? But they were still confused. Which bastard caused a landslide at such a short time? I'm really a fucking ancestor. The 4 swords of the Way of the King were so depressed at this moment that they were about to go crazy. Duo didn't know what was going on over there at all. After he caused the landslide, he had already slipped away. The commotion was too big. He had to leave. If everyone came over, Masters wouldn't be able to handle it. As for whether there was anyone down there, Duo didn't even consider. He just acted according to the situation. At this moment, he had already moved to the other side. This time, he put on makeup in a grand manner. He wore a white wig and walked out with a hunched body. At first glance, He looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. Along the way, he walked a few hundred miles, and it was still peaceful. Although there were battles within these few hundred miles, the reason for these few battles was that there were people who bullied the old man and wanted to take advantage of him. However, how many of those good-for-nothings who bullied the old man were capable of doing so? So, Xiaoduo, who was taken advantage of in turn, gained another 6 space rings. 135 rings. It was wonderful. It was a pity that in order to hide his identity, he couldn't read people's faces. Therefore, he didn't receive any luck points. It was a pity. Although he had put on makeup, Xiaoduo knew what was going on in his heart. His cultivation foundation couldn't be hidden from others. As long as someone paid attention to his cultivation, they would be able to recognize him instantly. Among a group of high-ranking practitioners, he, a small fry in the embryonic breathing realm, was as dazzling as a lamp. However, definitely couldn't go back to the centipede valley behind him. There were high-ranking practitioners on his left and right sides. Moreover, the other side had just collapsed because of him. Now, he could only take the risk and leave this place first. Now, everyone was paying attention to the tunnel. If he continued to dig the tunnel, not only would it be strenuous, but it would also be easy for people to block his nest. So Xiaoduo naturally had to change his strategy, adapt to the situation, and be full of possibilities. The most dangerous place is the safest place. When everyone doesn't expect me to go to the surface, I will swagger on the surface. This is called the art of war. Do you understand, Long Long? So Xiaoduo was a little self-satisfied. He felt as if he had become the military advisor of a generation. Xiaolong rolled his eyes. He really didn't have the energy to complain. With your art of war, it was purely for being chased like a rabbit. So what Xiaoduo calculated. As long as he went over the mountain in front of him and continued forward, he would be in the territory of the Tiger King and the Snake King. Now, only there were fewer talents over there. It was because of this reason that Xiaoduo did what he did. With a whoosh, he went over the mountain. He ran all the way and directly used the Tianyuan escape to rush into the neighboring territory of the Tiger King. Although it was said to be the territory of the Tiger King, it was actually a few hundred miles away from the real territory of the Tiger King. This was considered a blank area where the Tiger King and the Snake King's power overlapped. Safe. Unlike Yi Changxing and the rest who were anxious to find Xiaoduo and protect him, Xiaoduo had never thought of meeting up with Yi Changxing and the rest. He felt that he couldn't go back now. How many missions had he completed to find a medicine? The scheduled month-long mission was less than 10 days. At most, it would be a week. How could he go back now? Another more important reason was that in such a situation where danger lurked everywhere, Xiaoduo could clearly feel that his divine senses and mental strength were growing rapidly, becoming more sensitive and sharper. There were even some dangers that he could sense with his eyes closed that there was danger ahead and that he needed to avoid them. This point was confirmed by the little dragon's investigation in the front. It repeatedly proved that his spiritual sense was not wrong. Moreover, this kind of spiritual sense judgment was improving every moment. For example, when Xiaolong reported that there was an expert 2,000 meters ahead. Usually, when Xiaolong reported, Xiaoduo would have already vaguely sensed the danger and stopped in his tracks. For ordinary people, this was called intuition towards danger. However, for practitioners, it was called spiritual perception. This was a wonderful ability. Some people might not even use it once in their entire life. Even if they did use it, they might not be able to react to it afterwards. However, in the Jianghu, where life and death were at stake, it had many uses and benefits. Moreover, there was another reason Xiaoduo was not stupid. He knew very well that everything that was happening now was a trap set up with him as the medium. Xiaoduo was not sure whether the trap had succeeded or not. Speaking of returning safely, it was actually not that difficult. As long as he could find Yi Changxing or Wen Xingtian or even Zhang Xiaofei, he could hide in the Tower of Annihilation and let the two of them bring the tower back. Everything would be okay. Currently, in the entire continent, there were only a few towers of annihilation that could store living things. These towers of annihilation were all in the hands of important people in the continent of astral souls. The people in the outside world who knew about this thing were very few. Ordinary people would not even think about it. As long as Yi Changqing, Wen Xingtian, or even any of the teachers of Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts Academy kept the Tower of Annihilation in their arms, who would dare to search the headmaster's body? Yi Changqing and Wen Xingtian did not think of this method at the moment. It was just that they had neglected it in their anxiety. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was afraid of death, had already thought of a way out. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that if this game was over, there should at least be someone to inform him, right? Chapter 583. Zhuo Xiaoduo had a feeling. The person who set this up should let him know the whole story. As the person directly involved, he had the right to know the ins and outs of this matter. You can't just use me, right? Leave me aside after using me? Wait for the next time? That didn't make sense. Up until now, no one had come to inform him, which meant that the matter was not over yet. Since it was not over yet, how could he go back? What if he ruined this plan? With so many reasons, of course, he would take this opportunity to dig up more spiritual herbs, get more good stuff, and at the same time, snatch more space rings. It was beneficial to others, especially him. People of the martial world had their own awareness, especially these bounty hunters. Everyone was a lone ranger. Even if they had their own small organization, the number of people in a small organization was at most a few dozen, and the smallest was usually only 2 or 3 people. They only cared about money, treasures, and missions. As for the others, they knew who they were. Now, everyone was swarming into the Starlight Mountain Range. At first, they were fighting on their own, quietly searching for information about the target mission. However, after searching for a few days, there was still no news and there was no progress. Some people started to become impatient. Or perhaps the incident with the Centipede Queen gave them another kind of inspiration. They couldn't catch Zhuo Xiaoduo, but could they not catch others? As long as they snatched a few space rings back, there should be something to gain, right? They had traveled thousands and tens of thousands of miles. If they were to return empty-handed, wouldn't their efforts be in vain? They would even lose their manpower. It was precisely because of this mentality that the bounty hunters slowly started to have conflicts. These people were all ruthless. As long as there was a conflict, as long as there were no deaths and no blood was spilled, they would not stop. There were even a few lone bandits who had started to act wantonly and kill. There were even some Hidden Dragon High School students who formed a gang. Under the leadership of Principal Yi Changqing and head of the martial arts department Wen Xingtian, they used the pretense of protecting the students and searching for them to loot and plunder without restraint. Encountering an expert, even if they were on par with each other, the Hidden Dragon martial artists would have the advantage in numbers. They could have surrounded him and won the battle. However, Yi Changqing immediately led his men to turn around and did not fight with them. As for those who weren't as strong as them, they would swarm them and beat them to the ground, snatch their spatial rings, and leave. Other than those who were extremely vicious, they would kill them in passing and let the rest go. When he encountered some people whose names he knew, they were neither good nor evil. They even performed the process of cracking the spatial rings on the spot, then sold the items inside and returned the spatial rings to the other party. This kind of intelligent operation made people gasp. They came and went like the wind. They were too fast. Yi Changqing led one team, while Wen Xingtian led the other. They split into 2 groups. On the surface, they were plundering, but in reality, they were searching for Zhuo Xiaoduo. In the entire Starlight Mountain Range, there were fights, disputes, and massacres almost everywhere, especially Wen Xingtian's team. There were 2 great killers, Wen Xingtian and Zhang Xiaofei, in the team. They directly left a trail of blood as they pushed forward like a bulldozer. The idea of forcibly searching was Wen Xingtian's. He was also the first to act. Now it seems that Zhuo Xiaoduo isn't very dangerous. This kid is very clever. It won't be easy to catch him or even kill him. Even if his strength is low, his luck is high. Those who come to search for him will be the ones who are killed if they aren't careful. When Yi Changqing heard this, He thought of the Centipede Valley incident and couldn't help but agree. Therefore, he listened to Wen Xingtian's suggestion patiently. Our Hidden Dragon High School has been relying on the martial arts department's funds and supplies for all these years. To be honest, we're really poor. We can't even afford a piece of top-grade jade of astral souls. We don't even dare to ask for a high price. Why don't we take this opportunity to rob the rich and help the poor? Rob the rich of the bounty hunters and help the poor of our Hidden Dragon High School. We'll become rich overnight today. It had to be said that when Xingtian was worthy of being the director of the martial arts department of Hidden Dragon High School, he could even say something like robbing the rich and helping the poor. Moreover, he said it with conviction. Look at these people. Is the wealth in their pockets easy to come by? 99% of it is ill-gotten wealth. If we take it and use it on the students, in Zhuo Xiaoduo's words, we're indirectly helping to reduce their sins. This is doing good to others, being merciful. Yi Changqing felt that this sentence made a lot of sense, even if it was a twisted logic. Then it's not impossible for us to do this. Anyway, this time, we came with the standpoint of being enemies with everyone else. Sooner or later, we'll have to fight. This part is indeed unavoidable. It's just a matter of time before we find Zhuo Xiaoduo. Why don't we bring this process forward and increase our power and reduce the number of enemies? That's how it is. Boss is wise. But remember, we're not robbers. We're just venting our anger at them for chasing and killing our students. This is the crux of the matter. You need to understand. Yi Changqing said earnestly, we're teachers of Hidden Dragon High School. We're not robbers. We weren't in the past, we aren't now, and we definitely won't be in the future. We must pay close attention to this issue of reputation. When Xingtian said, Boss, to be honest, it's not easy to establish a monument to your reputation. Yi Changqing stared blankly for a moment. After thinking about it, he realized that when Xingtian was scolding him, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. Scram. All right. Thus, the curtains were lifted on a crazy, righteous plan. Remember, when you're doing things, you must remember that our main mission is to find Zhuo Xiaoduo and protect Zhuo Xiaoduo's safety. Wen Xingtian, if you delay this important matter, I'll skin you alive when we get back. That's my student. I'm more concerned about him than you are. You should worry about yourself. Don't be blinded by a little bit of money. Thus, the plundering journey of Hidden Dragon High School began. It was completely out of character. They directly plundered with bloodshot eyes. The most organized and disciplined group of people had made such a decision. In such a chaotic environment, what kind of destructive power would it produce? This was something that even Yi Changqing and Wen Xingtian did not think of when they decided to do this. They were originally experts who had retired from the army. Organizational discipline and obedience were engraved in their bones. Now that they were suddenly mobilized, it was equivalent to a special force of the army. Suddenly, cough, there was no way to say it. Zhuo Xiaoduo had just stepped into the intersection area of the two kings' territories when he was stunned on the spot. Fuck, am I walking right into a trap? In this area, there were actually two groups of people who were resting in a confrontation. Yes, they were resting while confronting each other. The two groups of people, one group of 7 people, and the other group of 6 people, each occupied an area. It was like the boundary between the Chu River and the Han River, and the well water did not interfere with the river water. So Xiaoduo took a closer look and realized that both sides were riddled with injuries and looked exceptionally miserable. Although they were on guard against each other, no one rushed to make the first move. Obviously, they were trying to buy time to heal their injuries, recover their vitality, and recover their qi. Both sides were on guard as they tended to their wounds and recuperated their cultivation base. It was at this extremely delicate moment, with a sudden whoosh, a little old man with white hair and a hunched figure appeared at the edge of the field. The sudden arrival of the person gave rise to a strange feeling in both groups. So Xiaoduo also felt strange. Why didn't I sense such a group of people in advance? This shouldn't be. The most important thing was that Xiaolong had investigated before. Why didn't he report anything? Could it be that these people were all experts? When he thought of this, His heart immediately rose to his throat. Previously, the Centipede King's ridiculously high and unimaginable strength was deeply imprinted in Zhuo Xiaoduo's heart. He really did not want to experience the feeling of helplessness in the face of a super strong person, and the feeling of being toyed with by the other parties poses a second time. What's more, if they were to fight against him, there was a 99% chance that they would not play around with him, but directly kill him. How could he be lucky? Regarding this result and this reality, Xiaolong was even more confused than Zhuo Xiaoduo. He had clearly seen this place a few minutes ago, and there was clearly no one here. Where did these two groups come from? At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was habitually paying attention to everyone's movements and details as a bystander, intentionally or otherwise, saw one of the people who seemed to be the leader quietly put something into his space ring. Immediately, Zhuo Xiaoduo clearly felt the aura of this group of people, and this strange feeling made him frown. Boss, the one with the scar on his face, has something good on him. Xiaolong moved closer to Zhuo Xiaoduo's ear and said, "That seems to be a piece of void transformation stone. As long as you carry it with you, even if you're next to someone else, you won't be able to sense them without looking. This is probably why I didn't notice them, and why your spiritual sense did not sense them." Void transformation stone? Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes immediately lit up like a light bulb, although he had never heard of it, although it was the first time he had heard of it. But since Xiaolong said it was something good, then it was really something good. But these guys in front of him seemed to have a high cultivation level. Potato, mingle, and sneak? Zhuo Xiaoduo was stunned as soon as Scar opened his mouth. This damn local accent. It seems to be a bit serious. Why can't I understand a single word? I thought it was some kind of Jianghu slang. But there were a total of 13 people, and they were all looking at him with burning eyes. Of course, the 6 people on the other side were also a little confused. This Scar seemed to be asking questions. But why can't I understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? Zhuo Xiaoduo bent his body, his white hair trembling, and his face humble. He took out a bottle of wine from his ring and said, "Allah, old nine, are you angry?" Scar said angrily, "I'm asking you, what do you do, and where do you want to go? Old man, are you trying to play dirty with me?" Zhuo Xiaoduo, damn it, if you know how to talk, why don't you say it properly? Are you trying to play me? Have you seen Zhuo Xiaoduo? Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled and said, "We can cooperate and share the fat meat that is Zhuo Xiaoduo." Chapter 584. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that the threat these guys gave him was not very serious. At least, they did not give him the feeling of having his heart tightly clenched. Did that mean the situation was under control? 13 divine thoughts simultaneously searched Zhuo Xiaoduo's body from top to bottom. Suddenly, Dao Ba saw Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes moving back and forth between his chest and the ring. He suddenly shouted and attacked. His body rushed forward and slashed at Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. His left hand formed into an eagle's claw, and combined with the momentum of the blade, he attacked from both sides. At the same time, he shouted, "Kill this bastard first, then settle the grudge between us." Zhuo Xiaoduo was stunned. Was the situation outside already so chaotic? Killing without a word? Killing without mercy? Wasn't the main purpose of this trip to catch Zhuo Xiaoduo? Wasn't cooperation the priority? Didn't you see how well the 76 people cooperated before? I also wanted to kill him, but before I could do anything, you attacked first? This was not logical, but was also good. From a premeditated murder to a justifiable self-defense, he had more reason to kill. With a muffled sound, a hammer appeared out of thin air and fiercely smashed on the attacking broadsword. The broadsword was completely unable to resist and was sent flying. Scar's other claw was still the same as before. Without any tricks, he grabbed the surface of the hammer with irresistible force. Suddenly, his 5 fingers were broken and dripping with blood. There was no other way. The hammer was too big, and the opponent's momentum was too strong and too fast. There was no way to turn around. With the sudden appearance of the hammer, Scar could not even see Zhuo Xiaoduo's entire body. At the right time, Zhuo Xiaoduo held 2 training hammers in his hands. This hammer smashed the saber away and crippled one of his arms. while the other hammer smashed into Dao Ba's chest like it was capable of destroying mountains and breaking mountains. He cursed, "Fuck, with such shallow strength, you dare to act all high and mighty in front of me. Why don't you ascend to the heavens with your slanderous words and your preaching?" With just one hammer, he had already smashed Scarface's sternum into powder. The dragon blood-flying dagger flew out as he wished. With a slash of his will, he had already cut off Scarface's finger and snatched the spatial ring. There was a void transformation stone in this ring, so it must not be smashed. The key was to get it as soon as possible. Scar flew back. His eyes were filled with despair and shock. As he flew backward, his eyes were finally filled with darkness. "My surname is Run, and my name is Ren Zhonglong. Since I was young, I believed that I was a dragon among men. That's because when I was born with a scar on the left side of my face. This was a mark left behind by the heavens. The heavens were afraid of losing me, the main character of this world, so they purposely left me a scar. Although the real reason was that on the day I was born, my mother couldn't open up her seams, so she had no choice but to perform a C-section. However, during the operation, a huge meteorite suddenly fell and the entire hospital shook. At that time, I was still in my mother's stomach, so the doctor's scalpel stabbed into my delicate little face, but this was the will of the heavens. Why did such a huge rock only fall when I was born? Moreover, that rock just so happened to be unscathed, and I was the only one who got stabbed in my mother's stomach because of the vibration. This was the will of the heavens. Because I was the main character. When I grew up and became more sensible, I was even more convinced that I was the main character. Because the huge rock that caused the entire city to shake had fallen in my house. It smashed through the protective shield, which was very strange. And it just so happened to fall in my house, which was even more strange. Although that rock had caused our family to go bankrupt, although that rock had been studied by many people and was useless, my father had found many people to help him move it to the side of the courtyard. It became a fake mountain. But ever since I became more sensible, I knew that this rock was definitely not simple. Otherwise, how could there be so many coincidences? Especially when I went to school, learned how to read, and started to read online novels. After reading a book by an especially handsome author, Wind Conquers the World, I was even more certain that I was the main character. Yes, the main character of that book was cultivating in his mother's womb, and I was the same. I got stabbed in my mother's womb. His name was Ling Tian, and my name was Ren Zhonglong. My surname was Run, and I was of the middle class. My father was uncultured, not a martial artist, and had no aptitude. But he gave me this name. This was also the will of the heavens. It must be. So, I was the main character. Since I was the main character, I must have a cheat. But where was my cheat? After I awakened the astral souls and could cultivate, I was even more certain that I was the main character. Because my family was very poor and my aptitude was very poor. Was there anyone more obvious than me as the main character? This was obviously the story of a loser turning the tables and marrying a Miss Perfect. But my cheat hadn't arrived yet. However, perhaps the heavens have already sent me my golden finger. Yes, it's that stone. It was too coincidental. On the day I was born, it fell in my house's courtyard. Our middle-class family was smashed into pieces. My father was unable to recover from the setback, and my childhood became difficult. This was the treatment of a main character. God was about to give me a great responsibility, so I started to study this rock. I borrowed a lot of tools and started to decompose this rock. Before this, many people had studied it. It was a useless rock, but I felt that it was useful. In order to decompose this rock, I spent 2 whole years and used up all the tools. Because decomposing this rock required strength, my cultivation was actually faster than usual. This must be the training that my cheat gave me. Piece by piece, I ground off this huge rock and threw it away. Finally, on that day, I felt the softness of the rock. Yes, can you believe the softness of a rock? I believe, because I saw it. After I used all kinds of methods to break this rock for 2 years, this rock became only the size of a basketball. Moreover, When I touched it with my hands, it felt very delicate, like the texture of a beautiful jade. I started to grind it in, and it became very soft. Very easily, it opened, and like a watermelon, I broke it open. At that moment, I didn't even see what was inside, but I was very sure that my cheat had arrived. My path to becoming the main character had finally begun. My path of a loser, turning the tables, had finally begun. I was about to start acting cool, smacking faces, and roaming the world, thus sure enough, there was a rock inside. When I touched this rock, my heart immediately calmed down. The cheat had been properly received. I was indeed the main character. Then, I started to study this rock. Then, I realized that this rock, no, it should be my cheat. It didn't seem to be very useful. It only perfectly concealed my aura. During class, I was clearly in the classroom, but as long as I didn't speak, all the teachers and students wouldn't notice my existence. They would even forget about me. So I put the stone away. I already knew what it could be used for. Concealment. Although I didn't know what level of concealment it could reach, with it, I could have anything. My family was poor. From the time I got this rock, I started to try. I first stole money from the neighbors, followed them home, and then watched them put the money away. Then I made a move and took it away. No one noticed. Then I stole from many people. No one ever noticed me. Then I went to the supermarket, to the store, whatever I liked, I took it and left. No one noticed me. Then I started to go to the pharmacy, the pill pharmacy, the cultivation goods store, whatever I liked, I took it and left. No one noticed me. My cultivation started to increase rapidly. This was normal. I was the main character. I was Ren Zhonglong, a dragon among men. Then I went to the Astral Souls Jade store, to the bank. Everywhere I went, there was no obstruction. No one noticed me. I was that awesome. When I was 18, I broke through to the innate realm. My cultivation speed wasn't very fast, but it caught up with the speed of the majority. When I was 22, I reached the embryonic breathing realm. Then I started to do missions. I realized that I had this characteristic. I should be an assassin. I was successful in every endeavor. I completed many missions that others couldn't. When I was in the embryonic breathing realm, I could assassinate a primordial elixir realm practitioner, and one at the peak of the primordial elixir realm. There were no accidents at all. I just walked behind him and slashed his neck. If I couldn't kill him, I would keep my knife and stand aside. He wouldn't notice me. When the time was right, I would slash again. When I was 28, I was already a primordial elixir grandmaster. I married our campus belle, but I was very disappointed. I had a crush on her for so many years, but after we went to bed, I realized that she was no different from other women. Same feeling, dull and tasteless. So, I kept many young ladies outside. Those young ladies with average qualifications, but pretty looks wouldn't go far in the martial arts path, but they were fun to play with. I had plenty of money. I had plenty of resources. When I was alive, I was more carefree than anyone else. Or it should be said that no one in this world was more carefree than me. When I entered the infant transformation realm, my reputation was already very famous. When I was at the peak of the primordial elixir realm, I could already assassinate Huayan. None of the missions that I received couldn't be completed, coming and going without a trace. I was called the ghost killer by the people of the Jianghu. They all said that I was really a genius of my generation. Killing people beyond my level was so easy. I silently watched them discuss, disdainful. Stupid mortals, how could you know what kind of heaven-defying equipment the main character had that you didn't understand? I was standing right beside you, and you couldn't even notice me. After completing a few missions that others couldn't complete, I became the ace assassin of the underground world. I was the first in history to become an ace assassin in the beginning stage of the infant transformation realm. Before me, there had never been such a thing. I was a genius. This was without a doubt. I was the main character. This was also without a doubt. As long as I walked step by step, sooner or later, I would stand at the peak of the world. Whenever they discussed the left and right heavenly kings, I just looked at them calmly, because I knew that my future would be more brilliant than the left and right heavenly kings. Because I was the main character. This was the template of a main character. Finally, on this day, I saw a bounty. Chapter 585. This bounty was very strange. a bounty for a little thing in the embryonic breathing realm called Zwishauduo. Ha ha ha. This name was really rustic. However, this bounty was exceptionally generous. At that moment, I was certain that this brat would not be easy to kill. With such a low cultivation, it was very unusual for such a high bounty to be offered. However, all of these rewards were basically set up for me. These spiritual medicine, these panacea, these treasures of heaven and earth, these resources for practice, were all things that I urgently needed. This was the will of heaven. The will of heaven had issued such a bounty. Then, it happened to be something that I needed. What else was there to say? This was a benefit that heaven had tailor-made for the main character. Hence, this mission, no matter how many people came, would definitely be mine. Hence I came. After coming here, I brought a few of my underlings and entered quietly. No one paid attention to us. Even when we walked outside the Demon King's territory, the Demon King did not notice us. We can rest anywhere we want. Once I saw Zwishauduo, I would be able to recognize him. Once I killed him, everything would be over. I finally saw him. The one who fought with me was definitely Zwishauduo. This was because I felt the blazing aura of the flaming sun scripture. However, only now did I know that I was not the main character. This treacherous brat was the main character. Almost immediately, he noticed the stone on my chest. I panicked. I just wanted to kill him. However, he defeated me easily and smashed my chest with a hammer. Then he snatched the ring. He was so familiar with it. That stone was in the ring. I understood now. It turned out that I was not the main character, but he was. As for me, after so many years, I was actually a delivery boy for the main character. My ring was filled with my understanding of the stone. It turned out that it was for him. Ha, how ironic. After so many years of being the main character, I was actually a delivery boy. I was dead, the famous ghost killer. I died just like that. Perhaps they were also curious. With such a low cultivation, how could a person who died so easily complete so many missions that others could not complete? Ha! When Zwishauduo took this stone and stabbed it into their chests, perhaps they would remember me. Because that's my style, Sai. I don't want to die. Zwishauduo was about to start his killing spree when he saw that the remaining 12 people on the other side were all pale. Surprisingly, no one took the initiative to help him. He couldn't help but feel strange. What was going on? If the other group didn't help, it might be excusable. But why didn't the group with Dao Ba make a move? I killed your leader. Make a move. Only when you make a move can I continue to defend myself and show my positive energy. What he didn't know was that the guy he killed was called Renjonglong. Although his cultivation was only at the nascent soul stage, he was a well-known ruthless character in the underground world. Many people with higher cultivation than him had been successfully assassinated by him. His nickname, Ghost Killer, was very popular and famous. The reason why he was so famous was that he could perfectly conceal himself. Even if he was only 1 meter away from his target, the target would not be able to discover him. That was why he was able to succeed time and time again. Even if it was not enough, he would be able to escape unscathed. As the saying goes, a person's reputation is like a tree's shadow. This famous ghost killer, Renjonglong, was a ruthless character who made all of them wary in their hearts. However, he was killed by this white-haired, stooped old man with a single strike of his hammer in a single exchange. This was simply the sky falling down. Go forward and fight. Boss Ren was killed. Wouldn't it be a waste of time for us to go forward? You provoke me first. If I don't give you a light punishment, wouldn't it seem that I'm easy to bully? I won't go too far. Hand over all your space rings, and I'll spare your lives. Zwishauduo's eyes flashed with a menacing light. The sledgehammer in his hand was swinging back and forth. The gray-haired old man who looked kind and honest and timid just now had turned into a killing god at this moment. His ferocity was monstrous. He kept saying that he wanted everyone's belongings and said that it was a light punishment. Didn't he know that taking people's belongings was like killing their parents? This mountain is mine, Zwishauduo said. The 12 of them did not hesitate at all as they quickly took off their rings and tossed them over. Compared to their belongings, their lives were more important. It was already a blessing to be able to save their lives from this killing god in front of them. So Xiaoduo took all 12 space rings in his hand. He snorted and passed through the crowd with a sledgehammer. In a flash, he disappeared into the dense grass. The 12 people looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. It was too dangerous. The ghost killer was killed in a single strike, let alone them. Their backs were full of cold sweat. What should we do? One of them looked pale. What should we do? Let's retreat quickly. Let's go back. A middle-aged man was silent for a moment. He smiled bitterly and said, "This matter is not something we can get involved in with our level of cultivation. Not to mention that we won't get anything. We'll even lose our life savings. It's good enough that we can keep our lives. Let's retreat." From then on, there were 12 less disheartened people in the Jianghu. 248 space rings. Ha! I'm rich. So Xiaoduo walked in with a newly acquired space ring. He couldn't wait to forcefully crack the ghost killer's space ring and roast it on the heart of the sun. Xiao Long helped to absorb some of the power of Providence to speed up the cracking process. After a while, the space ring that originally belonged to the ghost killer was forcefully opened. So Xiaoduo immediately took the space ring and put it in his pocket. In an instant, all the aura in his body disappeared without a trace. So Xiaoduo felt that after he put on the space ring, he seemed to be separated from others by a tight barrier. It was an extremely strange feeling. It was as if he could detect others, but they couldn't detect him. He was clearly here, but they couldn't sense him. Unless he wanted them to see him, or if they saw him directly with their eyes, they wouldn't be able to detect his presence and position. What a treasure! What a treasure! So Xiaoduo was extremely excited. This is a heaven-defying item. It's the best treasure for traveling and scheming. The space ring couldn't increase one's cultivation level, nor could it enhance one's body. However, it could perfectly hide one's qi. It was an absolutely heaven-defying function. In order to be safe, Xiao Xiao experimented many times. One time, he was right next to a certain someone, and his killing intent was so strong that it could kill the heavens. However, the person he targeted didn't feel anything. It was only when he stabbed his sword into the back of the person's heart that he felt pain and danger. He felt that he was about to die. But what use was that? He directly breathed his last, his body and Tao vanishing. 8 space rings were added to Zhuo Xiaoduo's space ring. Now, 256 space rings. Fiddling with the space ring, Zhuo Xiaoduo was in high spirits. This thing is really a must-have for an assassin. At this moment, the first person that Zhuo Xiaoduo thought of was Yu Moyan. This guy was now on the path of becoming an assassin. He was leaving dust in his wake, never to return. If this guy could really achieve something, when the time came, he could sell it to him at a discount. It wouldn't be too much to ask for his entire fortune for such a treasure. He had to make this bastard work for him for 100 years before he could use the treasure. That was the only way that cold-faced monster. Just as Xiaoduo was thinking of Yu Moyan was about to leave the Guangdong region. All the teachers in the high martial arts school came out to chase him. They chased him for thousands of miles before they caught up with him at the border between the Central Plains and the Guangdong region. If it wasn't for the fact that there weren't any force around, and it was just a plane, they wouldn't have been able to catch his tail and stop him. Zhuo is wanted by the underworld. I have to go and take a look. Umo Yin only left this note at the school before he left. When Luo Yinling heard about this, she was scared out of her wits. You Zhuo are awesome. You can attract so many people to kill him. However, you can't, child. How many days have you been practicing? Xiao, who is only in the embryonic breathing realm, actually wants to get involved in such a big matter. Luo Yinling hurriedly stopped this guy. She was gasping for breath, and she was so tired that she was half dead. Yu Moyan, who was in front of her, still had a cold face. His gaze was stiff and indifferent. Come back with me. Yu Moyan didn't say a word, but he held the sword in his hand even tighter. What's the use of you going? Luo Yinling was tired. With your current cultivation, other than causing trouble for your boss, what else can you do? You're not even qualified to be a scapegoat. This is the reality, the indisputable reality. Yu Moyan's gaze wavered, but he still didn't say a word. Think about it. What kind of person is your boss? Luo Yinling tried to persuade him. Maybe he doesn't need to die. If you go, you'll implicate him and cause him to die. Don't blame me for saying this. Chapter 586. Luo Yinling's face turned pale. The 18 discs of hell, although it is very useful for cultivation, but in the bones, you have to be in the most painful state of compression every day, every moment, every time. You have to compress your vital energy. You have to be on the thorny path at all times. And once you start, you have to continue for at least 18 months. You can't stop. Once you stop halfway, not only will all your previous efforts be wasted, you will also lose your foundation due to the backlash of your vital energy. Using such an extreme method to cultivate is too risky. Luo Yinling gently advised. Mo Yin, strength is never gained in a day. More haste, less speed. Mo Yin was silent for a while, lowered his head, looking at the sword in his hand. This was given to me by Zhua. In his arms, on his chest, the jade gave off a slight chill. That was given to him by the old principal. Mo Yin sighed softly, saying, "Teacher, please arrange it for me. I want to use the 18 discs of hell as my future cultivation mode." Luo Yinling was stunned. She could hear the determination in Mo Yin's voice. But this inhuman path, can he really walk it? Mo Yin looked towards the far west. His gaze seemed to pierce through the mountains and clouds. He murmured, "My brother is in danger. I can't go. I want to, but I can't do anything. But I hope this is the last time. If there's a next time, I will definitely go there, side by side against the enemy. Teacher, please arrange the 18 discs of hell for me, please." Mo Yin was silent, bowing deeply. In the night wind, Luo Yinling looked at the student in front of her with eyes full of sadness. There was never a moment when she felt that this child had grown up. On the way back, Mo Yin, you can first post in the underground world. Show your support for boss. Luo Yinling said, "It's no use. I won't post. I can't go. Even if I post 10,000 posts, I won't go." Mo Yin said, "But your boss will still see it. He knows your feelings. I believe it will be a consolation to him. I won't post. He knows my feelings, so what? I'm still a trash that can't go, or dare not go." Mo Yin walked forward. On the way back to school, the 18 discs of hell. "I want to go, I must go all the way. Next time, I will go even if I die." Beijing. Martial arts in the clouds. Zhou Yinqing carried his sword and found Long Yuxing and Wanli Xiao. However, he saw that the two of them were already exhausted from exchanging pointers with each other. So Xiao Duo is being hunted down. Do you know that? Zhou Yinqing's gaze was sharp. Long Yuxing frowned. "Zhou Yinqing, what do you want?" Zhou Yinqing said faintly. The old principal issued an order to summon all the graduates from Shui City No. 1 Middle School. Anyone who has time and can spare time is to rush to the Starlight Mountains. We must rescue Zhou Xiaoduo. The old principal ordered that if Zhou Xiaoduo is still alive, we must save him. If Zhou Xiaoduo died, all the graduates of Shui City No. 1 Middle School would take revenge even if they had to fight to the last person, no matter who the opponent is. Those who disobey will not recognize the identity of Shui City No. 1 Middle School. Zhou Yinqing replied, "That's why I'm going." Long Yuxing's gaze became serious, and his eyes flashed with deep gratification and happiness. However, he said solemnly, "If you don't go, we won't go either." "Why?" "Because if we go, not only will we not be able to help, instead, we will become a burden." Long Yuxing said. Li Qinglong sent a message as soon as he confirmed the situation, warning us not to act rashly. With our current shallow strength, we are not qualified to participate in this battle. Instead of adding to the chaos to show loyalty, it is better to seize the time to train ourselves. Go to the battle. At least have the qualifications to fight. Long Yuxing smiled bitterly. "Do you think we don't want to go?" Xiao Er had already left the capital, but we were scolded back by Li Qinglong. "The entire Hidden Dragon High School is there." Wanli Xiao said, "With our current strength, we can't help at all. But the least we can do is to not cause trouble." If those bounty hunters use us as a threat to force Boss Zwa to show himself, that would be the most tragic situation. She showed the Hell King Palace's bounty page on her mobile phone. The bounty has not been completed. Zwa is still working hard. Hidden Dragon High School is also working hard. We can't add to the chaos, and you can't go either. You're not qualified. If you go, you'll only drag my boss down. Zhou Yinqing held the hilt of his sword tightly and took a deep breath. I hope the two of you are not afraid of death. Otherwise, I will kill you with my own hands. Long Yuxing said indifferently. Our relationship with Zwa is not comparable to yours. Whether we are hypocritical or not, it is not up to you to judge. Zhou Yinqing snorted coldly and turned around to leave. Long Yuxing and Wan Lixiu looked at each other and refreshed the page again. This was the most common thing they did when they were practicing. Their eyes were filled with extreme impatience. Some things were easy to persuade others. However, it was difficult to persuade oneself. It will be fine. Wan Lixiu's eyes were red. If Zwa dies this time, and we don't go to help. Long Yuxing took a deep breath. Then I will never forgive myself. Then continue to work hard. Fight with your life. Wan Lixiu said fiercely. If you want to fight side by side, you can only talk if you are not strong enough. If you want to be loyal, then we must first be qualified to be loyal. Practice. Outside Shangjing City, in a mountain forest, a white line rushed to the south like a bolt of lightning. Wherever it passed, the sky was covered with ice fog, and the ground was covered with frost. A graceful figure, expressionless, was riding on a sword. The movement skill she used was the Tianyuan escape skill that Zhuo Chonglu had taught her. Zhuo Xiaoyan. Her face was expressionless as she moved in a straight line. Her speed had reached her limit, or even exceeded it. It had only been an hour since she received the news, but she was already 2,000 miles away from Shangjing. She was doing a mission outside and did not know about the Hell King Palace's bounty. But her father, Zhuo Chonglu, sent her a message, "Don't worry, don't go." Zhuo Xiaoyan thought this message was a little confusing. Little did she know that Zhuo Chonglu thought that Zhuo Xiaoyan already knew about it. So he sent a message to dissuade her. She wanted to call him, but the phone did not go through at that time. Zhuo Xiaoyan was on a mission, and her phone was left in the ring. When Zhuo Xiaoyan saw the news, he immediately felt that something was wrong. He couldn't wait to check it out. Similarly, when he saw the news about Zhuo Xiaoyan's bounty, he immediately flew up and rushed out of the Nine Heavens Pavilion. Riding on his sword, he activated the Heavenly Origin Escape technique and sped away at full speed. She did not give any explanation to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. She did not send any messages, because these were not important to Zhuo Xiaoyan. Snow and ice filled the sky, wind and thunder rumbled. The peerless beauty rode on her sword and soared into the sky. In her right hand, she held a top-grade jade of astral souls that she had been reluctant to use. She kept absorbing spiritual energy while flying at full speed. "Dog, I'm here to save you." Thunder and lightning exploded in the sky. "Niena," a deep voice suddenly sounded. Zhuo Xiaoyan turned a deaf ear and continued to speed forward. Boom! A burly figure flew through the air and directly stopped in front of Zhuo Xiaoyan, blocking her path. The person was tall and strong, with a stocky back and a bare waist. He was at least 2 meters tall, and his face was dignified, showing the aura of a superior. It was Uncle Nan, whom she had not seen in a long time. "Uncle Nan, why are you here?" Zhuo Xiaoyan was surprised. She still did not know that this Uncle Nan was the famous southern chief of the Astral Soul's mainland. She found it strange that Uncle Nan would suddenly appear here at this time. However, this was great news for her. She knew very well that this Uncle Nan was not an ordinary person. It might be a great help to save Xiao Duo. At this moment, nothing was more important than saving Xiao Duo. It did not even matter if she did it herself. Only Zhuo Xiao's life was important. "It's me." Southern Chief smiled warmly, but there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He received the news as soon as Zhuo Xiaoyan left. He immediately set out to chase after her. However, with his cultivation, He chased after her for 2,500 miles. When he caught up, he found that Zhuo Xiaoyan was using the Tianyuan escape method and extravagantly used the top-grade jade of astral souls to replenish her energy. However, this girl's rapid progress was still far beyond his expectations. "Uncle Nan, why are you here?" Zhuo Xiaoyan was burning with anxiety. "Can you please come with me to save Xiao Duo?" "I'm sorry, I can't go with you." Uncle Nan said, "I'm going to stop you. Don't go either." Zhuo Xiaoyan looked at Uncle Nan suspiciously. Her right hand was already on the hilt of the cat's spirit sword. Southern Chief did not know whether to laugh or cry. "This girl actually wants to attack me? Xiao Duo is fine. It's very safe." Uncle Nan advised earnestly. "The truth of this matter is that I used Xiao Duo to set up a trap to lure some people. If you go, you'll ruin things and even put Xiao Duo in danger." "A trap? Why should I believe you?" Zhuo Xiaoyan shook her head. Her attitude towards Uncle Nan suddenly changed. Uncle Nan waved his hand and landed directly with Zhuo Xiaoyan. Zhuo Xiaoyan wanted to resist, but she found that she could not. The opponent's strength was beyond her understanding. It was at an unimaginable level. After landing on the ground, Uncle Nan finally breathed a sigh of relief. "I finally caught up and intercepted them. Otherwise, I would have been dead. I trapped their son, and if I sent their daughter over." Whenever Uncle Nan thought about the consequences, his heart would palpitate and he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. "It's just that I still don't know how I'm going to end up, or what kind of ending I'll end up with. You don't believe me, right? It's easy. Believe me, it's really easy. I have a witness that you'll definitely believe." Minister Nin took out his phone and dialed the number. "Haha, Zhuo, how are you? How are you?" The voice on the phone was indifferent and emotionless. It was as cold as ice. "You're here to report the death. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes." Chapter 587. Zhuo Chonglu's voice was cold. That one sentence made Nanchong sweat profusely. No. How could it be?" Mr. Nan sweated and said quickly, "It's Nyener. She want to go there after hearing about it. I stopped her, but she is stubborn. She didn't believe me. I had no choice but to call you. Would you like to talk to her?" Hearing that his daughter was also there, Zhuo Chonglu's voice was not so cold. "Let her answer the phone." Mr. Nin handed the phone to Zhuo Xiaoyan. Zhuo Xiaoyan took the phone and checked the number first. Then she said hesitantly, "Dad?" Zhuo Chonglu said calmly, "Listen to your Uncle Nan this time. Go back and do your thing. Don't worry. Duo is fine." Zhuo Xiaoyan was still doubtful. "Dad, I want to video call you." Chief Nan's forehead was covered in sweat and black lines when he heard this. "Miss, you're still worried at this point? You want to video call me?" If the voice could be faked, how difficult would it be to fake a video? Zhuo Chonglu obviously knew his daughter's temper. He hung up the phone first and then called her directly. He said helplessly, "Didn't I send you a message? You silly girl." Zhuo Xiaoyan was finally relieved. She smiled. "I know, Dad. I will go back with Uncle Nan. Is Guder really okay?" "It's okay. Don't worry. When he is done, I will ask him to call you to tell you that he is safe." Mr. Nan asked, "Boss, I want to talk to you one more time." In the video, Zhuo Chonglu's eyes suddenly changed from gentle to cold. Then he hung up the phone. Mr. Nan's forehead was covered with cold sweat. He hurriedly called Zhuo again. "The number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." Minister Nan was dumbstruck. Zhuo Xiaoyan didn't know what was going on, but she gloated and said, "Uncle Nan, congratulations, you've been blacklisted by my dad." Chief Nin felt as if he had been stabbed in the heart again. "How could I not know that I was blacklisted? Do I need you to tell me? Who was the nice guy she was talking about? Was she talking about Zhuo? My God, what a preposterous idea." Zhuo Xiaoyan didn't know what had happened at all. Although her father had repeatedly assured her that everything was fine, she was still worried and asked around on the way. "Uncle Nan, what's going on? Uncle Nan, what game? Uncle Nan, why did my father block you? He has such a good temper. What did you do to provoke him?" Uncle Nan. Southern Chief felt bitter in his heart, but he didn't dare to say anything. He used up all his energy to send this lady back. They entered the city. "Go back by yourself. With my current status, It's not convenient for me to send you directly to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. Before Uncle Nan could finish his words, he had already slipped away. Zhuo Xiaoyan saw that Uncle Nan's face was pale. That was Uncle Nan too tired? As she walked, she took out her phone and dialed Zhuo Chonglu's number. Dad, what's going on? Don't let me guess blindly, just tell me. In the mountains, a figure in green was flying in the air. The sword in his hand flashed coldly and split the clouds. All the way to the south, Qin Fangyang, who hadn't been seen for a long time, was brimming with a murderous aura. He was like a demon king from hell, speeding all the way to the starry mountains outside Fenghai. He didn't say a word, his expression cold and hard. Don't worry, since I promised to protect the children, I'll definitely protect them well. No matter what, even if I'm smashed into pieces, nothing will happen to the children. Qianqian, don't worry. Hidden Dragon Master. Li Chenglong was furious. Where are you going? Are you going to cause trouble? I'm not going. Why are you all so impulsive? With your current cultivation, are you qualified to go? Are you going to help or cause trouble? Go back and do what you're supposed to do. How can you not be anxious at all? Where's your heart? Xiang Chong and Meng Zhangjun both frowned and looked at this guy. What's the use of being anxious? If it's useful, I don't mind being anxious to death. My heart needs to be calm. I can't be anxious, and I can't be confused. Swollen waved his hand impatiently. Go back one by one, and pay close attention to the completion of the mission on the website. This time, if Zwood doesn't die, no matter who is against us, we'll take revenge in the future. If he dies, we'll take revenge for him. All the assassins, organizations, and Hell King Palace, as long as I have time, I'll crush them. Li Chenglong smiled brightly, but there was a trace of coldness in his smile. Swollen was very angry, and there was also a feeling of inferiority growing bit by bit, and it was impossible to get rid of. He realized that he couldn't get involved in Zwo's troubles. Even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. He was powerless. How could this be? Could it be that in the future, I'll only be a burden? No, absolutely not. Seeing Xiang Chong and the others leave, Li Chenglong's face turned gloomy. Gravity Room, 6 hours. After swiping his credits, Li Chenglong went in. The Starlight Mountain Range had now completely turned into a battlefield. Zwo Xiaoduo, everyone's target, was nowhere to be seen. Even if he appeared occasionally, Zwo Xiaoduo's bodyguards were too powerful and too slippery. One hit, one kill, one hit, one hit, one hit, one run, one hit, and one run. Often, when people rushed over, they would see the ground after the Flaming Sun Sutra was used. There were clear traces, but Zwo Xiaoduo was nowhere to be seen. He came and went like the wind. He really came and went without a trace. That this situation made many people furious, but they couldn't do anything about it. In addition, the 3 Demon Kings were involved. Everyone could only search carefully. They didn't dare to use their divine sense to search a large area. Once they used their divine sense to search a large area, part of it would inevitably enter the territory of one of the 3 Demon Kings. It would immediately cause panic. And Zwo Xiaoduo, this despicable guy, always moved around the territory of the 3 Demon Kings. He never left. Slowly, everyone found a pattern. If Zwo Xiaoduo wasn't in the territory of one Demon King, he would most likely be in the territory of another Demon King. Again and again, he went back and forth, welcoming and sending people away. This knowledge was gradually discovered and confirmed by all the bounty hunters. As a result, everyone began to gather their strength in these 3 places. The Starlight Mountain Range was undoubtedly huge. But if the search area was narrowed down to the territory of the 3 Demon Kings, it wasn't particularly big. Although there was still a radius of 3,000 miles, it was still vast and boundless, with no end in sight. But compared to the previous aimless search, it was much better. Faced with such a situation, Yi Chongqing and the rest of the Hidden Dragon School people couldn't help but feel anxious. Because as the search area became smaller and smaller, the chances of Zwo Xiaoduo being discovered and bumped into would be much higher. Yi Chongqing made a prompt decision and directly occupied the highest mountain peak, leading the rest of the Hidden Dragon School people to look down from above. The terrain here could be said to be the best mountain peak in the territory of the three demon kings. It wasn't that the Hidden Dragon School people were the strongest, but Yi Changqing directly said a ruthless sentence, dispelling everyone's thoughts. The current situation is clear to everyone. Our objectives are also clear. We only need to act. But since we haven't acted yet, we're not completely opposing each other. Yi Changqing's voice shook the Starlight Mountain Range. At this moment, whoever dares to fight with the Hidden Dragon School for this mountain will have shed all pretense of cordiality and become enemies. Everyone knows what the consequences will be. Going against the Hidden Dragon School is going against the martial arts department. It's going against the country. It's betrayal of the mainland. It's rebellion. His gaze was like lightning, looking around at the people around him. Without hiding anything, he threatened deeply. I'd like to see who has the guts to do so. Tens of thousands of Jianghu people cursed in their hearts at the same time. We're just bounty hunters. Since there's an underground world, then there's a place for us to eat. Jianghu's black and white. What's black and white? Everyone has their own rules and their own channels for eating. We often do illegal things, but we do it in secret. When have we ever broken the law and violated discipline completely in the open? That's a completely different nature, okay? This fucking Yi Changqing, he's so brazen now. Isn't it because he has the support of the government? But in reality, no one dared to go against him. At least before they found with Xiaoduo, no one dared to go against the taboo and take the initiative to attack the Hidden Dragon School. Premeditated crimes and actual crimes were two completely different crimes. What's more, this fucking Yi Changqing actually pinned a big hat of rebellion on him. Motherfucker. This mountain belongs to the Hidden Dragon School. Yi Changqing walked up the mountain, leading a group of teachers from the Hidden Dragon School calmly. And the people who were at the top of the mountain were Tian Wujiang and a group of people. Yi Changqing walked straight up, glanced sideways, and shouted, "Go down." Tian Wujiang's entire face turned purple. I'm not your subordinate. I'm also a famous person in the Jianghu. Can't you be a little more polite? Yi Changqing? Yi Changqing expressed that he couldn't. He looked sideways at Tian Wujiang, his fingers slowly grasping the hilt of his sword. His meaning was clear, go down or not. If you don't go down, I'll make my move. As long as I make my move, you'll be openly hostile to the Hidden Dragon School. You'll have to bear the consequences. Tian Wujiang felt as if he had eaten shit. Fuck, you can still do this. Tian Wujiang's expression was ugly. He still wanted to save some face. You want to rebel? When Xingtian's hand was on the hilt of his sword, his gaze cold. Tian Wujiang, you've got guts. Tian Wujiang was so angry that he fell backwards. What did I say? I'm rebelling. Chapter 588. Even though Tian Wujiang already had thoughts of retreating, he still couldn't help but mutter. According to the rumors in Jianghu, Hidden Dragon High School's Yi Changqing is a scholarly general who has always been particular about convincing people with reason. What's wrong, Principal Yi? Your actions don't match the rumors. Yi Changqing said coldly. The rumors I heard in Jianghu are that Tian Wujiang is a spineless person who has to kneel down and lick the Hidden Dragon High School's boots. Why don't you kneel down and lick the Hidden Dragon High School's boots like the rumors? Tian Wujiang was so angry that he fell backwards. Rumors? Since when were there such rumors in Jianghu? This Hidden Dragon High School's principal now looked like a homeless leader, or even worse. Was this really the principal of Hidden Dragon High School? A model teacher who had students all over the world. Principal Yi, let's just give up this place. Why do you have to be so aggressive? The other person said coldly, obviously very angry in his heart. Yi Changqing immediately turned around and shouted, "Who are you? Do you want to be an enemy of our Hidden Dragon High School?" The face of the Imperial Spirit expert who spoke turned purple in an instant. Yi Changqing, can you still be reasonable? Do you really think that you're a principal? If it weren't for that official power backing you up, I wouldn't care about your grandma's claws. With a black face, he followed Tian Wujiang down, but was stopped by Wen Xingtian. Stop! What's your name? What's your identity? You dare to speak to our principal like that? Tell us your name, place of birth, age, gender, and ID number. You and your family's descendants will forever be blacklisted by the Hidden Dragon High School, never to be seen again. The goatee flew into a rage. When Xingtian, don't go too far. When Xingtian's hand was on the hilt of his sword, his eyes filled with killing intent. He shouted, "Register! I now suspect that you're a spy from the Umno Alliance. Don't force me to make a move." The goatee was stunned. Fuck you. When Xingtian and I have known each other for almost 1,000 years. Usually when we see each other, we call each other brothers, saying affectionately. Now you're turning your back on me? Little did he know that when Xingtian was even more furious. He never thought that an old friend of his would come. This man with the surname Sang was an old acquaintance of Wen Xingtian. The two of them had fought side by side on the battlefield at the border. When they met occasionally, they would drink and reminisce about the past. They couldn't be considered brothers or friends, but they were still familiar acquaintances. But when Xingtian never thought that this guy would actually participate in the encirclement of his students. So Xiaoduo, Hidden Dragon High School student. The homeroom teacher, Wen Xingtian. All of this information was clearly written on the bounty notice. You didn't give me face, yet you expect me to give you face today? If you don't, I'll kill you today. The goatee, surnamed Sang, thought for a while and seemed to finally understand. He couldn't help but say with some guilt, "Brother Wen, this time it was indeed my fault, but I was forced by life. I know that's what Xiaoduo is your student. But in life, there are always some choices that must be made. I hope you can understand." Before he could finish, when Xingtian shouted, "Do you not understand human language? Register. I suspect that you are a spy from the Umno Alliance. Name, age, gender, place of origin, ID number. Say it loudly." The goatee's spirit visibly withered. He said hatefully, "Name, Sang Jiushuan. Age, 1,454 years old. Place of origin, Shundu XXXX. Gender male. ID number." At this moment, the entire mountain peak was silent. No one would have thought that under such humiliation, the goatee would actually register and report his identity. To be able to endure such humiliation, Qin Wentian was shocked. Wen Xingtian took a deep breath and pointed a finger at Sang Jiushuan's nose. He said bitterly, "Sang Jiushuan, you are a disgrace to our Eastern Army. You are a disgrace to our commander. What you've done today is a disgrace to all the brothers who died on the battlefield back then. Scram! Don't let me see you again." Immediately, when Xingtian turned around and left. He didn't look back. Sang Jiushuan lowered his head. His entire body was in a daze. He suddenly turned around and stared at Wen Xingtian's back. He screamed, "Wen Xingtian, I'm not as lucky as you. You are a bachelor. After you retire, you can still be a teacher. You don't have to worry about food or clothing. What about me? I have a big family to feed. As long as there is a path to survival for those who walk the righteous path, why should I be a killer who works for money? No one has lived in another's house for a few days. What right do you have to criticize me?" When Xingtian. Sang Jiushuan was filled with grief and indignation. He was like a completely different person. When Xingtian didn't even turn around. He only said, "I, Wen Xingtian, have done things with a clear conscience. 100,000 souls under my sword deserve to die. I eat well and sleep well. My conscience is very clear. I feel that I have lived my life like this for a long time. I am satisfied. But you are still not enough. You are still far from enough. From now on, I don't know you, and you don't know me." When Xingtian walked up the mountain without looking back. Below, Sang Jiushuan stood there in a daze. Tian Wujiang said softly, "Brother Sang, let's go. It's useless to reason with them. It's just a choice." Sang Jiushuan took a deep breath. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't and followed behind Tian Wujiang. On the mountain, Yi Changqing comforted. Everyone has their own aspirations. There's no need to force them. When Xingtian took a deep breath and shook his head, he didn't say a word. A gloomy voice said, "Hidden Dragon High School, Principal Yi, Department Head Wen, how imposing, how murderous. Your group of people from Hidden Dragon High School openly killed people and stole their belongings. You must have stolen several hundred spatial rings, right? Now you are accusing others of being shameless. Hee, I would like to ask, who is more shameless? This voice was faintly discernible, sometimes to the left and sometimes to the right. It made it impossible to pinpoint his exact location. At the very least, none of the people present were able to tell where this person was. When Xing Tian laughed loudly, "Is the shameless one? There is a public opinion. You assassins came to kill my Hidden Dragon High School students for the bounty. Killing you is a matter of course, and we have a clear conscience. Hidden Dragon High School has provided talents for the army over the years, fighting for the safety of the entire continent. On the other hand, you are at the back. Even if you have good cultivation, you are still protected. Do you dare to deny it? You are under our protection, yet you come to harm Hidden Dragon High School students, the future pillars of the country. Who is the shameless one? So what if we kill you? Can't we kill you?" When Xing Tian's words were like spring thunder, he stood proudly on the top of the mountain and spoke with fervor and assurance. Facing all the assassins with ulterior motives, he asked everyone loudly, "Can I kill all of you?" Then he roared again, "So what if we kill and steal your spatial rings? Even if we steal your belongings, we will only use them on Hidden Dragon High School students to cultivate talents for the country and the continent. Can't we rob you? Who said we can't kill you? Who said we can't rob you?" When Xing Tian roared, "Stand out. Let me see. How can you not kill me? How can you not rob me?" When Xing Tian's words were earth-shattering, suppressing the tens of thousands of people present and making them speechless. They knew their own matters. What they did, whether it was right or wrong, everyone knew in their hearts. Being an assassin didn't mean that they could not distinguish between right and wrong, and that they could speak without conscience. "Let's just leave it here." When Xing Tian's voice shook the mountains, "The people of Hidden Dragon High School are here. Who dares to act rashly? Those who dare to act rashly are treacherous. Before Zhuo is found, you can only listen obediently. Once Zhuo is out, according to the rules of the underground world, you want to rob the bounty, and we want to protect the students. Everyone will use their own means. When that time comes, we will die in your hands, and you can find excuses to shirk responsibility. But before the bounty target appears, whoever dares to move is treacherous and is rebelling. Who dares to say no?" When Xing Tian's voice was too loud, and it shook the wilderness. In the end, someone was unhappy and dissatisfied. When Xing Tian, even if that's the reason, why are you saying it so loudly? This person was very dissatisfied. Wasn't he informing Zhuo? He was clearly telling Zhuo, "Don't come out no matter what. You're so loud. Who can't hear you?" When Xing Tian said sternly, "I'm born with a loud voice. Why are you unhappy? Come up. I'll spar with you." Many assassins were so angry that they almost fainted. "When Zhuo comes out, I'll definitely spar with you. Even if he doesn't come out, I'll still find a chance to spar with you today," that person said sinisterly. When Xing Tian snorted, "You're just a stepmother?" This person was so angry that his face turned red. This when Xing Tian's mouth was simply too despicable. Other people didn't hit people in the face and didn't expose people's shortcomings when scolding them. However, this guy specialized in exposing people's shortcomings. The person who spoke lost his mother when he was young and was indeed raised by a stepmother. However, although this was the truth, it was easy to imagine how insulting it was when it came from someone else's mouth. It was even an additional 3 levels. Next, when Xing Tian stood at the top of the mountain and explained, "According to the rules of the martial arts world, the King of Hell Palace is just a corner of the martial arts world. According to the rules of the underworld, when there's a reward, you're responsible for your own life and death. Everything belongs to the individual. This is the rules set by the founder of the demonic path, Lei Changtian, and the star-plucking monarch. Therefore, when Zhuo comes out, one wants to protect and the other wants to kill. If the person you protect dies in battle, it's considered a personal grudge, and it's not considered a violation of the law. However, before Zhuo comes out, You guys made a move against the martial artists of the Hidden Dragon clan. That's a violation of the law. When Xingtian shouted sternly, the 4 armies want you guys. The 8 armies want you guys. The Martial Arts Department wants you guys dead. The National Security Department wants you guys dead. The Shield Department wants you guys dead. The Martial Arts Department wants you guys dead. Do you know what the crime of treason is? It's a crime of extermination, and the 9 generations of the family will be wiped out. His voice rumbled, echoing back and forth in the mountains and valleys. Some words have been said several times. This time, facing the entire Starlight Mountain range, he announced it again and explained it again. Tens of thousands of people were speechless. Shameless people were truly invincible. It seemed that today's Hidden Dragon clan's martial arts department was going to be shameless to the end. When Xingtian said loudly, "Everyone, do you understand? If you don't understand, I can say it again. Sigh, I'm used to being a teacher. I can't help it." Thus, with a rumbling sound, the lecture started again. Finally, someone became impatient and shouted from afar. When Xingtian, your students heard it long ago. If they didn't hear it, even if you say it 10 times, they won't hear it. We're not your students. Don't say it. When Xingtian said, I'll say it one last time. This is a matter of life and death for all of you. If you're not careful, your 9 generations will be wiped out and your ancestors will suffer. How can you not be careful? How can you not listen seriously? Therefore, tens of thousands of assassins felt like they were fucked. Chapter 589. Everyone had the urge to rush up and hack when Xingtian into 1,000 pieces, dismembering his body into pieces. Was there no end to this? Did he think he was drawing highlights for his students in school? Was he going to organize another exam? To be honest, today was an eye-opener for them. The top 3 hidden dragon martial experts in the entire Star Spirit continent actually did such a thing today. It was indeed a first in history. What was face? Everyone was speechless. When Xingtian's explanation over and over again was naturally heard by Zhuo Xiaoduo's side. Not only had he heard it, but he had heard it so clearly that he was sick of it. Zhuo Xiaoduo already had an idea of what to do. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo would not do as when Xingtian said, because the Void Transformation Stone he obtained this time was too useful for Zhuo Xiaoduo. So much so that Master Zhuo had another plan, because he realized, with this thing, the Centipede King, the Tiger King, and the Snake King would not be able to find him. If that was the case, did it mean he? Zhuo Xiaoduo immediately came up with a bold idea. I want you to get me. No, I want to get the thing that you have been guarding for so many years. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo was the closest to the Snake King's territory. He held the antidote pill in his mouth and walked over happily. Long, see if there are any good things around here and point them out to me. Boss, there's no need to look. Because of the spirit medicine that the Snake King has been guarding for a long time, there won't be any other heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the area. This is the only one that has absorbed all of the earthly chi. Damn, that snake's soul fruit is so powerful. Yes, the Snake King's territory is similar to the Centipede King's, but it is colder and more humid. There is not as much poisonous fog. Xiao Long was uneasy. Boss, I suggest you give up on the snake soul fruit. This thing is basically useless to humans. Not to mention that it will anger a greater demon monarch. The disadvantages outweigh the benefits. The losses outweigh the gains. Zhuo Xiaoduo said in amazement, why don't you have any ideas about it, since it's useless to humans? Long, you must remember our mission. Xiaolong humbly asked for advice. Mission? What mission? Zhuo Xiaoduo said solemnly, our motto is, regarding things that we can't obtain, things that we have no hope of obtaining, we will never think about it, even if it is very useful to us. Then, you're smart. You know that there's more to it. What's more, we must get whatever we can get, even if it's of no use to us. Xiaolong was speechless. This is your mission? I really don't know what to say about your motto. Boss, are you sure? Xiaolong was depressed. This giant snake was not to be trifled with. It was not inferior to the Centipede Kings, especially its ability to summon thunder and lightning. It was so powerful. Let me teach you one more thing. Zhuo gave him a bowl of chicken soup. If you don't try, you'll never get it. If you try, there's a chance. Xiao Long muttered. If you try, you might die. Damn. Zhuo was angry. Can't you say something nice? You are saying something so inauspicious when we are about to fight. In any case, Zhuo still insisted on his opinion. He tiptoed and entered the Snake King's territory. Don't be fooled by his flowery words. In fact, he wasn't confident at all. Although this void transformation stone was effective on humans, who knew if it would be effective on the Snake King? In Zhuo's heart, he was really not confident. At this moment, in the Snake King's territory, Zhuo did not know that he was not the only one. There was already someone here, and it was someone who had been lurking for a long time. In another direction of the Snake King's territory, a man buried his entire body in the swamp. His whole body was covered in mud. Even his eyes were covered. It took a long time for him to squirm slightly. Occasionally, a poisonous snake would swim past him. The moment the mud in the swamp moved, his body would undulate. He did not leak any aura at all, but when he occasionally exposed his face, the terrifying crisscrossing scars on his face revealed his identity. It was Vice Principal Chung of Hidden Dragon High School. After receiving Yi Changqing's call, Vice Principal Chung gave up everything and rushed to the Starlight Mountain Range to protect Zhuo. But even he did not expect this. After he came to the Starlight Mountain Range, he actually found his lifelong enemy by chance. Shiyu. Ever since Li Chenglong talked to Zhuo last time, Vice Principal Chung began to pay attention to collecting information about those people. But Shiyu and his subordinates, the five-colored snake Venerable, were like clay oxen in the sea. There was no news at all. After many searches, Vice Principal Chung did not find anything. Naturally, his mood changed from yearning to inexplicable depression. But he rushed to the Starlight Mountain Range as soon as Yi Changqing summoned him. Although he was no longer the vice principal of Hidden Dragon High School, the 4 words Hidden Dragon High School still had an overwhelming weight in his heart. He rushed all the way here, even half a day earlier than Yi Changqing. In the end, when he was guarding the mountain pass, he unexpectedly saw 6 people rushing into the mountain pass as fast as lightning. And these 6 people gave him a very strange feeling, very strange. These 6 people's movements were uniform, and they all flew directly in the air. This was not surprising, but in Vice Principal Cheng's eyes, their movements were clearly 6 snakes slithering, twisting, and crawling into the mountain pass. Seeing this kind of characteristics, Vice Principal Cheng's heart skipped a beat. Although he did not see their faces clearly, Vice Principal Chung immediately guessed the identity of these 6 people. Shiyu, the 5-colored snake Venerable. Apart from these 6 people, it was likely that no one else in this world would be able to act like them. This discovery made Vice Principal Chung forget everything at once. Only his granddaughter's eyes, which were full of despair when she died tragically, appeared in front of him again. He followed them regardless of everything. Shiyu and the others hid as soon as they entered the Starlight Mountain Range, as if they were waiting for an opportunity. Vice Principal Chung waited for a long time, but he did not see any movement. It seemed that they did not intend to carry out the mission of killing Zhuo. It was not until everyone was focused on searching for Zhuo that he took 5 of his subordinates and sneaked into the Snake King's territory. The Snake King did not seem to have any intention of driving them out. No, it did not react at all. Even Vice Principal Chung, who followed them closely, was regarded as one of them by the Snake King, who followed them in safely. Vice Principal Chung was dumbfounded when he came in. He did not know what to do next. Shiyu and the others walked to the center of the swamp as if they were familiar with the place. However, Vice Principal Chung could not follow them in like he did just now. Obviously, there was another restriction. This delay made the Snake King realize that something was wrong. With a roar, a bolt of lightning struck down. Vice Principal Chung was quick-witted. He quickly jumped into the swamp. Then, he held his breath and hid his aura. He did not dare to move at all. Until now, he had been hiding in the swamp for 5 days. During this period, Shiyu and the others came out from the swamp from time to time. They walked back and forth in the area, carrying things and occasionally cleaning the place. They were as free as if they were in their own home. The Snake King of the Star Beast seemed to treat the 6 of them as its own kind, or as workers. However, they were still its own people. Yes, it was a snake. The Snake King's residence was located in a damp and cold valley. It was surrounded by swamps on 3 sides, but this Star Beast Snake King's nest was located under a dry mountain wall. It was a huge snake cave. From what Vice Principal Chung could see from afar, the cave was so vast that it had probably hollowed out the belly of the mountain it was leaning on. There were 7 or 8 huge holes for the Snake King to enter and exit, and they were all hidden in the cold clouds. Now, Shiyu and the other 5 people seemed to be very careful and even meticulously polishing the holes. Judging from the situation, the Snake King must have grown in size again. It was inconvenient for it to enter and exit, and it was afraid that it would accidentally crush its own nest. Therefore, it asked Shiyu and the others to repair it. This kind of work was not difficult for Shiyu and the others. Other than opening up the holes for the Snake King, they also polished off some of the sharp edges. They were very careful and patient. Vice Principal Chung saw the 6 of them going in and out of the cave from time to time. They carried the stones out of the cave and threw them into the swamp. The swamp they chose to throw the stones in was exactly where Vice Principal Chung was hiding. Every time they went in and out, they would throw thousands of stones into the swamp. Boom, boom, boom. It was like an earthquake. The muddy water splashed up hundreds of meters high, and turbid waves surged to the sky. However, Vice Principal Chung remained motionless. He moved up and down along with the muddy water, as if he was a dead object. He would rather die than let go of this opportunity. He was waiting for a chance to perish together with these 6 devils. How could he not take revenge for such a deep blood feud? Shiyu and the other 5 worked for 3 days straight before they could rest for a day. Vice Principal Chung looked at the 6 of them and happily walked out with a pile of green things. They used a huge stone as a platform at the edge of the swamp, and each of them pulled out a few chairs from their spatial rings and sat on them comfortably. This was the only place in the entire valley where they could see some sunlight. It seemed that Shiyu and the others were becoming more and more like snakes, but they still liked to bask in the sun. Vice Principal Chung thought for a while. He swam toward the shore quietly in the mud, wanting to hear what these villains were talking about when they were resting. However, he was too far away and their voices were too vague. He could barely hear what they were saying. Chapter 590. Shiyu, who was dressed in red, had a skinny figure, triangular eyes, and a triangular head. His entire being was cold, wet, and slippery. He placed the object in his hands on the stone platform. That was the only place where the sunlight could reach. He exposed the object completely to the sunlight. Then, he started to circulate his special martial arts, causing wisps of dark green true core chi to flow into the object. With the continuous infusion of spiritual power and the prolonged exposure of the sunlight, the object slowly unfolded. It was 6 stalks of dark green, curvy grass. However, every leaf of the grass was round and dark green. Under the sunlight, the 6 stalks of green grass started to twist, wriggle, and dance on their own. They looked like 6 living snakes. Shiyu and the rest of the 6 people focused all their attention on the grass. Everyone's eyes were filled with fanaticism. With the infusion of true core chi and the sunlight shining, the dark green, snake-like grass wriggled even more vigorously. Boss, sometimes I wonder how you found this place back then. One of the snake venerables was filled with curiosity and envy. Shiyu smiled faintly. Back then, I was only in the embryonic breathing realm and was about to break through to the primordial elixir realm. However, my aptitude was second-rate and my family was poor. Moreover, my character back then was very antisocial. I didn't have any friends or brothers. If I wanted to practice resources, I could only risk my life. Back then, I accepted a bounty mission to find the spiritual medicine. Hence, I joined a small mercenary team and came to the Starry Mountains. However, after I found the spiritual medicine, Shiu's gaze was deep. He pointed his finger upwards and said, "It was on the top of the mountain." The other members of the mercenary team suddenly attacked me. Obviously, they didn't want to share the loot with me. Back then, I naturally didn't want to die. However, if I stayed up there to fight with them, I would be outnumbered. Moreover, there was a difference in our abilities. How could I have the luck to fight them? After I was seriously injured, I had no other choice. I closed my eyes and rushed down the cliff. Shiyu smiled faintly, but his eyes were cruel and sinister. Back then, when I jumped down, I just so happened to land on the snake ancestor's body. Even though I had this buffer and didn't die, it was the same as sending myself to the snake ancestor. I could only end up as food in its mouth. However, the snake ancestor had just finished shedding its skin, and its vitality was greatly damaged. It actually didn't eat me. At that time, the snake ancestor had just shed its most crucial king-level skin. But because of that, its strength was greatly reduced. It couldn't even deal with the sharp rocks around it. It didn't even have the strength to look for food. It was afraid that it would cut its body. Fortunately, the snake ancestor had advanced to the king tier at that time. His spiritual sense had transformed, and he could communicate with humans. At that time, I was inspired and took the initiative to pick food for the snake ancestor to nourish his life force. 3 months later, the snake ancestor completely recovered. He even rewarded me with a stalk of this snake spirit grass. Shiyu looked at the dark green grass in front of her and murmured, "This snake spirit grass is a kind of extremely poisonous thing between heaven and earth. Just one stalk will melt half of the bones in a person's body. From then on, the person will only be able to crawl like a snake. It will be difficult for him to walk upright." I lived crawling for 2 months. Then, the snake ancestor gave me a second stalk of snake spirit grass. From start to finish, I stayed in this snake valley for 5 years, a whole 5 years. 5 years later, my body was completely assimilated by the snake spirit grass. I received the recognition of the snake ancestor. I bid farewell to the snake ancestor and left the snake valley. Then at that time, my strength had greatly improved. I found a small mercenary group. Everyone's family was killed by me. Then I tried every method to find a spirit snake cultivation method. Every year, I would spend 2 months here. My cultivation also improved by leaps and bounds because of this. 100 years later, I met you guys. Then we established a gang. The Snake King smiled faintly. At that time, you guys always felt that it was strange. Why would I go out every year and come back with a sudden increase in my cultivation? This is the fundamental reason. Behind him, the 5 snake venerables all smiled embarrassedly. We slowly became the overlords of Feng Hai's underworld. We became the #1 gang. Those years were really happy. Shiyu's words revealed a look of longing and reminiscence. Then, we were annihilated in one night and captured in the dungeon. At that time, I really thought that we were done for. In this world where the strong are respected, the strong are the ones who have the most power. It wasn't just you, boss. At that time, our brothers also felt that our lives were coming to an end and that we couldn't keep our lives. The 5 of them said at the same time. Yes, during that time, we saw people being captured and killed every day. That feeling. We were like chickens in a cage. We just saw who the butcher outside wanted to kill today. He would take out a knife and kill them. Even now, when I think about it, I still have lingering fears. But no one would have thought that it wasn't a public prison at all. Shiyu smiled bitterly. Finally, we were brought out. I thought that I had reached the end. I didn't expect to be brought to a garden. The person I met was actually the famous king of the Central Plains. The king of the Central Plains asked me if I wanted to die or work for him. Shiyu smiled bitterly. Was there any other choice? In the swamp, Vice Principal Cheng's heart suddenly thumped. The king of the Central Plains. It was the king of the Central Plains again. Last time, he saw a swordsman who looked very similar to the golden dragon sword that had assassinated his boss. He followed him all the way to the king of the Central Plains residence. In the end, the king of the Central Plains suddenly appeared and attacked him with a sword. It was also that sword strike that had caused him to almost lose his life, and it had even left behind a scar that could never be healed. Now, this Shiyu was also a pawn of the king of the Central Plains. What was the king of the Central Plains trying to do? Or could it be that he was the mastermind behind all this? But when it came to submitting to the king of the Central Plains, there were still many benefits. From that year onwards, we started to cultivate the heavenly serpent soul technique that the king of the Central Plains gave us. Shiyu sighed and said, "This is also an opportunity, a blessing in disguise." From then on, we had a technique that could continue to cultivate. The five of them sighed, yes. Until that year, the king of the Central Plains returned and gave us the task. Shiyu's gaze turned cold. The other five venerable snake masters were all smiling lecherously. "I have to say, boss, the task you took was really good. The two girls of the Chung family were so fucking beautiful. Their figures, their touch. I still have a lot of memories of them. I can't stop dreaming about them. Yes, it was so satisfying. It's a pity that we had to kill them. Otherwise, we could have captured them and trained them secretly to become our slaves. That's the joy of life. Hee hee. Just thinking about it makes me happy. It's a pity that we can only play once. Yes, it's a pity. I've never seen such beautiful girls in my life. Pity my ass. You've fucking done it several times in a row after taking the drug. You're the only one who's had the most fun among us." The five venerated snake masters laughed and joked around. They were delighted to talk about the past. However, Vice Principal Chung, who was in the swamp, felt like his organs were being torn apart. He gritted his teeth and sank his whole body into the muddy water. It was them. So Xiao Duo was right. Li Qinglong's speculation was also right. It was indeed Shi Yu and the others. It was also the inner circle of the imperial family. It was indeed the king of the Central Plains, the mastermind behind everything. If he hadn't heard about the king of the Central Plains, Vice Principal Chung would have charged out at once. However, now that the king of the Central Plains was involved, the implications of this matter were too great. Revenge had to be taken. However, the news of the king of the Central Plains scheme had to be spread. They had to get out alive. They had to bring the news back. Shiyu and the five venerable snake masters deserved to die. They deserved to be hacked into pieces. However, the mastermind behind them deserved to die even more. They should be ground to dust and consigned to eternal damnation. Ever since I brought you here 4 years ago, the snake ancestor has made things difficult for me for a long time. Shiyu smiled bitterly. The five venerable snake masters were also grateful and emotional. When their boss brought them to the Snake Valley, everyone could see the fury of the venerable snake masters. He made their boss work for half a year and almost tortured her to death. Later, because their heavenly snake mental cultivation technique was compatible with snakes, they let them go and tacitly allowed the five venerable snake masters to become their subordinates. Boss's kindness to us is as high as the sky and as deep as the earth. We will never forget it in our lives. Sai, what's the point of saying this? She stretched her body under the sunlight. It's so comfortable, although it still can't be seen in the light, but it's finally out. At this moment, the 6 snake spirit grasses had stopped trembling and twisting. They transformed into 6 green transparent sticks, standing upright. Under the sunlight, light flowed inside, as if there were little snakes slithering back and forth inside. The snake spirit grasses are more effective now. They're much thicker than the ones we ate a few years ago. She reached out and picked one up. Everyone, don't waste it. Eat it quickly and circulate your energy to digest it. The breakthrough of the heavenly snake body technique depends on these snake spirit grasses. This time we'll stay here for half a year. Let's try to get more snake spirit grasses from the snake ancestor. She said, "Yes, boss, everything is up to you." The 5 venerable snakes beamed with joy. They grabbed their own snake spirit grasses, put them in their mouths, chewed, and swallowed. "Boss, there seems to be some strange fruit at the bottom of the snake ancestor's cave," a venerable snake asked curiously while circulating his energy to digest. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Haven't you heard of the proverb, curiosity kills the cat? Shiyu said coldly, that's not something we can think about. The snake ancestor has been guarding that thing for thousands of years. If you look at it too much, you'll be whipped. Have you forgotten? Yes, I won't ask. This short period of time was a rare time for the six of them to rest. It was precious. They still had to go in and work for the Snake King later. Time was precious. In the distance, the huge snake stood upright, facing the sunlight. It spat out a colorful snake pearl in its mouth. The snake pearl received the sunlight, and for a moment, it shone brightly. So Xiaoduo also tiptoed into the Snake Valley at this time, requesting votes. Once that snake realizes what's going on, you'll never be able to escape. So Xiaoduo had other plans. So what if I can't escape? Can't I not run? Why must he run? The snake was still trying its best to swallow and spit out the inner core, absorbing the essence of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. The snake cave must be empty. Chance. So Xiaoduo made up his mind. Go all out, go all out. Suddenly, Xiaoduo raised his body's speed to the limit. Once again, he performed the long sky, flying Katkin's body technique. While paying attention to his body's concealment, he also performed the Tianyuan escape technique. Like a wisp of smoke, he rushed into the huge snake cave. After rushing in, he followed the path that Xiao Long had pointed out and flew down 3,000 feet, like strands of catkins flying into the huge snake cave. On the walls of the cave on both sides, there were countless tiny holes that could be seen with the naked eye. Colorful venomous snakes wriggled their fat bodies in and out of them. If one looked at it this way, the entire cave walls seemed to be made up of poisonous snakes. So Xiaoduo was not distracted. In a flash, he reached the bottom of the cave. What he didn't know was that at this moment, the six Shiyu brothers were chatting and laughing as they walked to the entrance of the cave from above. They were exercising their body techniques and floating down, ready to continue their work. So Xiaoduo rushed all the way to the bottom of the cave. At a glance, he saw his target. It was a strange-looking fruit tree. On the fruit tree, there was a half-red, half-white fruit hanging on the branch. So Xiaoduo did not hesitate. He did not even have time to take a closer look at the fruit tree. The moment he landed, he grabbed the heavenly witchcraft copper shovel in his hand. He was like a little mouse dragging a big shovel. His body landed with the shovel. He activated all his cultivation, gritted his teeth, stared, and shoveled down without a care. Poof, poof, poof. With 3 consecutive shovels, the soil and stones tens of meters below were all pried out. The whole pile was tens of cubic meters. It was all kept in the Tower of Annihilation. Then, he jumped down and burrowed into the soil. He stuffed the Tower of Annihilation into the deepest part of the soil. Then, he hurriedly burrowed into the Tower of Annihilation as well. His heart was thumping wildly. I got it. What was the reaction of that stinky snake? Would it discover me? From start to finish, the whole process took less than 3 seconds. This was simply like a sudden clap of thunder that left no time to cover one's ears while stealing a bell. Xiaoduo swore that the speed at which he detonated at this moment was definitely the fastest he had ever done in his life. After this, as his cultivation increased, there might be times when he could be even faster. But before this, there was no such time. Even when he used the hammer of 1,000 spirits with all his strength, it was not as fast as this. It was just this fast that Shiyu and the other 5 people floated down. They had just eaten the snake spear grass and were feeling refreshed. Even their moods were extremely good. They raised their chi, lightened their bodies, and descended. But, why did it seem like there was a person below Datham? There was a person. Fuck, there was a person. The 6 people's eyes widened abruptly. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They saw that person holding the big shovel and shoveling it down 3 times in a row. Then, that strange fruit at the bottom, that ancestor snake had been guarding for thousands of years, just like that, it disappeared along with the fruit tree and a large piece of land. Then, that person seemed to have jumped and disappeared as well. What the fuck? What the fuck? At this moment, the six people were dumbfounded. This time, they were really dumbfounded. To be honest, even if they had nightmares, they would never dream of such a strange thing. In the nest of the king of star beasts, at the bottom, the most precious thing that had been guarded for thousands of years was taken away by someone just like that. Are you fucking kidding me? Or did I see wrongly just now? She suddenly lowered her body and came to the edge of the pit in a flash. Venerable Snake and the other four people also followed and stood at the edge of the pit. He saw that. This huge pit was in a very irregular shape. It could be seen how abrupt, how hurried, and how unexpected the change was. In the middle, the most precious, and also the most precious. Where was that tree? Where was that fruit? Where was it? It was really gone. At this moment, the six people were still in a state of confusion. But the six people looked at each other, and the same thought flashed through their minds at the same time. They exclaimed in unison, "Oh no!" The treasure was gone. But at this moment, the six of them were standing at the edge of this pit, standing at the scene of a crime. The six of them and the person just now had arrived at the left side of that strange fruit tree almost at the same time. If Ancestor Snake came back, what would it think? The consequences? Shiyu and the others did not even dare to think about it. They had just eaten the snake spirit grass and felt that they had reached the peak of their lives. Until now, their nerves were still high. But why did a big pot suddenly fall from the sky? It was directly placed on their heads. Let's go. At this moment, Shiyu's blood rushed to her head. At this moment, her mind was numb and she saw stars. She was already scared out of her wits. Subconsciously, this was the only word that came to her mind. Leave this troublesome place. This was the only thought in her mind. Catch the thief. What kind of joke is this? Damn it. Is this the time to catch the thief? Now is the time to run for their lives. That's Snake King. No matter how much of Snake King it was still a snake in its bones. It would not be reasonable, not to mention sentiments. The six of them turned around at the same time. Then the six of them felt cold all over because they saw a huge snake head hanging in midair at the entrance of the pit. It was sinking down. Two huge snake eyes shone down like searchlights. Its eyes were burning. The huge snake eyes saw the six of them at the edge of the pit. Then it saw the pit. Pit. The Snake King was confused. But then it saw the horrified faces of the six people and looked at the empty pit. At this moment, the Snake King's mind was blank. Its snake eyes were dazed for a moment. Oh heavens, oh earth. I have been guarding this place for a total of 3,600 years. 3,600 years. Now, you're telling me that the thing I've been guarding is a treasure that is only half a month away from being swallowed. Where did it go? Where did it go? Fuck you guys. A surging aura suddenly exploded like a nuclear bomb. The Snake King's anger rose to the extreme at this moment. It could explode the heaven and earth and shatter the universe. Ayo! It was unknown how angry the Snake King was. The Snake King, who had never roared like that, had actually activated a new skill due to its extreme anger. It let out a roar similar to that of the Tiger King. It had learned a foreign language out of anger. Chapter 592. The Snake King was so angry that he was dumbfounded. At first, he felt that it was quite good. He had 6 subordinates to help him clean up, do some chores, and prepare food. This kind of life was quite comfortable. He went out comfortably. The sun was great today. He spat out his inner core and absorbed some sun energy. Comfortable. His body was so lazy from the sun that he wanted to sleep, that it was too comfortable. These 6 human ants are really quite obedient. How about I give them 2 more snake spirit grass as a reward? It was quite good, but just when it was at its most comfortable, and the entire snake was feeling lazy, he suddenly felt a little strange. What was strange about it? He was suspicious, he thought for a while. Fuck, why was the aura of the snake's soul fruit gone? The snake formation that was soaring to the sky suddenly collapsed. It turned around and drilled into the hole anxiously. Its movement was extremely fast. It turned around and drilled into the hole, not even caring that its thick waist was twisted. It turned around and saw it. It saw a big hole. My baby, it's gone. Beside the hole, the 6 detestable humans who should have become my feces, but were taken in by me. They were actually standing beside the hole. Fuck your grandmother. The Snake King exploded. His huge spiritual power shook the void. Where are the treasures? Down below, Shiyu and the other 5 brothers were a loss. They didn't know how to respond or react. Where are the treasures? You ask me? Who should I ask? I wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Really, at this moment, I just want to know who the hell dug this big hole for me. You fucking chose the right time to do this. Too little. Even if we were outside and you came to steal it, when we were floating down, you took it away. Oh my God. What kind of black injustice is this? What kind of hole is this? It can bury a god. Facing the Snake King's questioning, the 6 of them were dumbfounded and speechless for a long time. The Snake King's fury rose to another level, and it completely exploded. After another roar, its huge body swooped down without warning. It was crazy. In its huge eyes, the 6 ants below, the 6 snake slaves, the 6 stinky ants. They actually pulled out their weapons. Are they trying to kill me? Ungrateful bastard. Traitorous things. Despicable and shameless things. Despicable and dirty things. Shameless things. At this moment, the grievances in the Snake King's heart could not be washed away. I fed you, nourished you, and made you stronger. For so many years, I took care of you like I took care of my own sons. Is this how you repay me? You ate and drank from me, took my things, trained my skills in the end. You stole my most important treasure, and now you want to kill me. The huge head of the snake was filled with madness and hatred. At this moment, there was no more room for buffering, no more chance to explain. She only had time to shout, "It wasn't us." But then he said, "Let's fight." The Snake King, who could completely understand human language, was already charging down. When he heard that, he became even angrier. It wasn't you guys who did it, yet you still want to fight with me? What the fuck? The 6 of them drew their swords and sabers together. They used all their cultivation and rushed up with a roar. This was the real life and death situation. If they used less strength, they could be killed on the spot. They knew very well how powerful the Snake King was. Even if the 6 of them were not ants, they were not that strong in front of him. At this moment of life and death, they could only go all out and fight for a chance of survival. It was either life or death. Realizing this, the 5 venerable snakes gave it their all and risked their lives. However, at this moment, the absolute leader of the 6, Shiyu, suddenly paused for a moment. Just as he was rushing with all his might, he paused for a moment. With this pause, he fell to the back of the 6 and became the 5 venerable snakes who rushed up to meet the Snake King. The Snake King looked down from above. The 5 venerable snakes roared crazily. Their swords and sabers shone brilliantly at the same time. Saber chi and sword chi crisscrossed for hundreds of feet. "Boss, let's go," one of the venerable snakes roared, and then subconsciously looked back. "What, boss? Leave quickly." Boss has already left. Humans were always so strange. A moment ago, they were still shouting, "Boss, leave quickly." If the boss did not leave and stay to die, everyone would cry, shout, and curse. "Why don't you leave? If you don't leave, what's the point of our sacrifice?" However, when you shouted, "Boss, leave quickly," the boss had already left. Then, everyone would feel a sense of betrayal and anger. "Fuck, we were fighting for you, but you really left. Where's your heart? Where's the brotherhood we agreed on?" However, they did not have time to think about all this. They did not even have time to curse. The 5 of them had already collided with the Snake King. The Snake King was furious and came down aggressively. Its power was so great that it was unstoppable. Crack, crack, cracked, the 5 venerable snake swords and sabers all broke, but half of them pierced into the Snake King's body. After all, it was the combined power of the 5 of them. In addition, the Snake King was angry and did not have the heart to defend. Even though its skin was thick, it was still full of wounds and dripping with blood. However, the 5 of them only suffered more serious injuries. They were all sent flying backwards, blood spurting out of their mouths. The Snake King continued to press down. The 5 of them smiled bitterly. Since we called you boss, we might as well fulfill your wish. A loud roar. The 5 of them, who were originally flying backwards, suddenly came to a stop. Then, they charged forward in unison. Then there was a loud bang. The 5 of them knew that they were not going to survive. They self-destructed at the same time, using the last of their willpower to fulfill the Brotherhood. This was the extreme self-destruction of 5 royal god experts. The power was boundless. Although there had been spirit-reigning cultivators who had lost their lives to the Centipede Queen's sharp claws, they had all put up a desperate struggle to survive, hoping to be rescued. They had been severely injured and poisoned, so their remaining strength was less than 100%. Even if they self-destructed, it would be meaningless. As for the 5 snake-revered masters, although they took the Snake King's attack with hatred, they were the ones who risked their lives first. They had used up all of their cultivation, so the injuries they suffered were limited. However, when they saw that their big brother Shiyu had disregarded their brotherhood and ran away on his own, they were all filled with the will to die. Therefore, they fused all of their true essence, chi, blood, life, and even their divine souls into this final self-detonation attack. If you don't leave, we will self-destruct to open the way for you and let you go. Because you are our big brother. We are willing to do it. If that is the case, even if we die with a smile. How comfortable and worth it would be to die. However, if you leave that ha-ha-ha boss, we brothers wish you a smooth escape and then be caught by your enemy. Then you will live forever. It would be best if you're caught by Vice Principal Chung. Then you will live forever. The entire cliff collapsed with a loud rumble as the 5 royal gods self-detonated. The Snake King, who bore the brunt of the impact, fell back from the impact. His body was full of holes, and a large amount of blood spurted out like a fountain. The entire cliff was like a huge mountain crashing down with a loud bang. The Snake King's huge body was sent tumbling by the sudden fall of the mountain. At this time, a figure rushed out like lightning, holding 2 big handfuls of snake spirit grass in his hands. Who else could it be but Shiyu? The Snake King, who was falling back, saw this scene and became even more furious. Traitor! In extreme anger and hatred, he ignored his injuries and used all of his strength to pull out his snake tail. The long snake tail drew a mysterious trajectory that could split heaven and earth as it chased after Shiyu. Shiyu's body flashed out of the cave, and he waved his hands to push away a few big rocks, trying to escape. However, the huge snake tail was already chasing after him. With a puff, the sword that Shiyu treasured like his life was thrown out of his hands. At the same time, he used all of his cultivation to push forward with all of his strength. This was a real fight. If he did not fight, he would lose his life. With a loud bang, the Snake King let out a sharp scream. The snake tail was first pierced by the long sword, and then it collided with Shiyu's head-on. It was an extreme collision of enormous strength. The poor Snake King was first hit by the extreme self-explosion of the 5 snake venerables, and his body was severely injured. Then, he was crushed by the huge mountain. He tried to pull out his tail to chase after the traitor, but he was hit by the traitor's sword and palm. A big hole was created in the snake tail, and it was penetrated from the front to the back. A huge amount of blood gushed out like a torrential flood. The Snake King roared and twisted his body. A mouthful of venom was also spat out like a mountain flood. On the opposite side, she was hit by the snake tail head-on. He was also not in a good condition. With a muffled groan, blood spurted out of his 7 orifices. His internal organs were ruptured, and his face was pale as paper. He was like a kite with a broken string, and he was sent flying more than 300 meters. With a bang, he crashed into an ironwood tree. With a shake, blood gushed out of his mouth like it was free. There were even pieces of his internal organs mixed in with the blood. Almost 60% of the bones in his body were broken by the snake tail. He struggled to get up and hurriedly pounced to one side. There was no other way. The Snake King's last mouthful of venom covered a wide area. Even she would not be able to withstand the venom that the Snake King had spat out using his vitality as the foundation, especially when he was heavily injured. He pounced with all his might and rushed out 60 meters, finally avoiding the area covered by the venom. However, one of his ankles was still stained by the Snake King's venom. Cheed. The muscles on his calf started to smoke, and a pale green color quickly spread to his upper body. Ah! She screamed, but he still took out a sword from his space ring. Without any hesitation, he chopped off his right leg from the base of his thigh. Chapter 593. Poof! With a flash of the sword, an entire leg was cut off from the thigh. This was the venomous snake bites the hand. Warrior severs the wrist. However, she was even more thorough, directly cutting off the thigh. The entire leg that was cut off flew out. At first, it was still a little white, but almost instantly, it turned into a pale green color. Then it sizzled with smoke and finally turned into a puddle of pus. Ah! She screamed miserably. With one hand on the ground and one leg on the ground, her entire body was like a toad with a broken limb. However, her speed was still extremely fast. As she jumped, she stopped the bleeding. In just a few breaths, she had actually jumped a few hundred meters. She understood very well. She was still far from escaping the trap. The opportunity in front of her was her last chance to escape. Once the Snake King crawled out of the landslide, he would be dead for sure if he couldn't escape far away and find a safe place to hide. There was no way he would be lucky. As for her injuries, fuck. How could she care about her injuries now? As she jumped, she stopped the bleeding. As she bled, she spat out blood, flesh, and internal organs. Yes, in another sense, she was multitasking. Speaking of which, until now, she still did not understand what was going on. The time was really too short. Everything happened so suddenly. Before she could understand anything, it had already happened. She really did not have time to react. She could only act passively and run all the way to the end, completely taking the blame for everything that happened. But what was going on? It seemed like she had jumped down and realized that the treasure was gone. Even the tree, the fruit, and the land were all gone. Then the Snake King came back and started fighting. The 5 beasts self-destructed. The mountain collapsed. And then it was her turn to fight with the snake tail. Yes, she left the battle group to collect the snake spirit grass. That was because she had no other choice. Besides, that was not the main point. Anyway, she was then sent flying, sprayed with venom, and now she jumped more than 1,000 meters with one leg and one hand. Taking everything into account, it only took about half a minute from start to finish. The landslide over there was still not over yet. It would probably continue for a while longer, but the time left for her was definitely not much. And the 5 good brothers who had followed her for so many years. Now, their lives are really over. But why did all of this happen? Who the hell set me up? Who stole the snake's soul fruit? It was too unfair. I've been wronged. She felt that even if it was snowing in June, she still wouldn't be able to tell everyone about her grievances. On the other side, the mountain continued to rumble. The Snake King's furious roar continued, but its body was too huge. The entire mountain collapsed, and it was in the midst of the landslide when it was heavily injured and sent flying back. It was impossible for him to escape in a short period of time. It was unrealistic. However, it was truly burning with impatience and could not wait any longer. The huge snake was so angry that blood was spurting out of its mouth. It was so angry that one of its fangs was broken. Despicable and shameless humans. I will never let you off. Shiyu had forgotten himself and was jumping up and down with all his might. He could clearly feel the pain in his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. All the bones in his body were creaking, and the muscles on his body were falling off one after another. Even his consciousness was about to blur. The blood in his body had almost dried up because of his multiple injuries. However, he still didn't dare to stop. He didn't dare to stop at all. There was only a possibility of death now. However, if the Snake King chased after him, he would definitely die. A possibility and a certainty were two completely different concepts. He desperately jumped with one hand and one foot supporting himself. In one breath, he had jumped more than 20 miles away from the Snake King's lair. Shiyu's heart was finally slightly comforted. However, he still didn't dare to relax and continued to jump with all his might. Suddenly, he saw a pair of feet in front of him. A pair of feet covered in mud. A cold voice said, "How tired are you to jump like this? I'm doing a good deed. I'll bring you along." She was shocked when he heard this. He almost couldn't breathe. He raised his head and saw a person looking at him with a frosty face. There was an eye-catching scar on his face that split diagonally from the bridge of his nose. It clearly divided his face into two halves. Shiyu's breath was instantly released. He laughed bitterly. "So it's you, Vice Principal Chung. To die in your hands, to die in your scheme, we are not wronged." Vice Principal Chung snorted coldly. He was filled with extreme hatred as he said, "Die? Shiyu, do you think there's such a good thing in this world?" He grabbed Shiyu and slapped his danty on. Then, he picked him up with one hand and broke through the thick fog like lightning. He sped away. For Vice Principal Chung, everything in front of him was like a fantasy. However, this dream was too beautiful. It was so beautiful that it was a little unreal. Even if Vice Principal Chung were to design it himself, he wouldn't dare to make it up like this. Today, Shiyu's cultivation was at the peak of the returning profound realm. The 5 snake venerables under him were all at the royal god realm. With such strength, if he faced them head-on, not only would he not be a match, he would also die without a doubt. He hid in the swamp and didn't dare to move. All he wanted was to find a chance to get out and spread the news. He couldn't die here for nothing. What he thought was so simple. That was all. However, things in the world were so mysterious. He watched as Shiyu and the other 5 walked back, chatting and laughing along the way as they entered the huge snake cave. Then, the strangest and most unbelievable things of his life happened one after another. First, the Snake King, who was lazily drying his inner core, suddenly turned back into the cave, as if his but was on fire. Then, there was a great shaking of heaven and earth, and the world was turned upside down. He clearly heard one of the 5 snake venerables yell, "Boss, run quickly." Then there was an extremely loud explosion. Based on Vice Principal Cheng's years of experience, such a big commotion couldn't be caused by a royal god's self-detonation. But what had happened? Could it be that all 5 snake venerables self-detonated? But what happened? Why'd it have to be like this? Then there's a landslide. Then the Snake King's huge body flew out, and the whole mountain crashed down. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on the giant snake. At this time, Shiyu flashed out. The Snake King fought back with all his might, his tail sweeping wildly at the Snake King, and Shiyu collided violently. Shiyu was seriously injured and sent flying. Vice Principal Chung saw all of this. He even heard the sound of Shiyu's bones breaking and the cracking of bones all over her body. Then he saw a huge mouthful of venom thousands of meters away, which turned into a waterfall and came over. Shiyu acted like a poisonous snake biting its hand and broke its leg. Moreover, it was cut off from the thigh. Vice Principal Chung couldn't help but sigh at the miracle of human life and resilience. In such an extreme situation, he jumped like a toad with one leg and went crazy for 20 to 30 miles. Although he didn't understand what was going on. But if he didn't take advantage of such an opportunity and didn't grasp it, Vice Principal Chung would have lived his life in vain. He made a prompt decision to rush out of the swamp and effortlessly capture Shiyu. This was double the truth. Vice Principal Chung had long given up the extravagant hope of capturing Shiyu with his own strength. He had already prepared to self-detonate and perish together with the other party. Even the most ideal result was to take away a few of them by self-detonation. With the current cultivation strength of these 6 people, it was impossible to take away all of them. But he had to take revenge. Even if he had to self-detonate, he had to vent his anger and end this blood feud. But now, not only were the other 5 murderers dead, he had also effortlessly captured the biggest culprit. It was as easy as running into the mountains and casually picking a mushroom. Jianghu. Jianghu is really mysterious. Vice Principal Chung took Shiyu away for less than 3 minutes. An earth-shaking roar filled the surroundings. The huge body of the Star Beast Snake King soared into the sky and rushed out of the Snake Valley like an aircraft carrier. It rushed out of the fog and crazily rushed towards the densest area of the crowd. Die, 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 die. The Snake King's mental power shook the void, causing the sky to change color. The clouds in the sky gathered crazily, and lightning was summoned by the Snake King. Boom, boom, boom. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. Outside, countless bounty hunters were running around like headless flies. The people of Hidden Dragon High School occupied the highest mountain peak. Everyone was tense and alert, paying close attention to all the movements around them. Although there were occasional quarrels, it was not important and did not affect the overall situation. Only the occasional tiger roar from the other side intimidated everyone. There were also a few angry roars from the Centipede Queen. Give me back my playmate. All in all, the overall situation was still relatively stable and peaceful. Other than the 2 groups of people suddenly fighting and ending the battle quickly, there were no other extreme incidents. Only the shadows of people were still flying back and forth in the forest like lightning. But these movements were destined to be futile. Zhuo was not near at all. How could he discover anything? Moreover, everyone knew in their hearts that before Zhuo appeared, even if there was chaos, it would not be too chaotic. But at this moment, from the direction of the Snake Valley, which had been relatively peaceful and also relatively far away, there was suddenly an earth-shattering loud noise. Everyone was an expert in cultivation. How could they not know that this was obviously a crazy self-detonation? And it was not the self-detonation of an ordinary expert. An ordinary person would not be able to achieve such an effect. A powerful self-detonation that could cause a landslide. How could an ordinary cultivator do that? Then, the furious roar of the Snake King resounded through the sky. Chapter 594. On the mountaintop, Yi Changqing and the others suddenly stood up. Their faces were solemn. They instinctively felt that the commotion had something to do with Xiaoduo again. But what did this kid do? How could he cause such a big commotion? Yi Changqing was full of worry as he looked at the slowly rising mushroom cloud. What was going on at this moment? In the thick fog ahead, a figure suddenly broke through the clouds. His speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. He did not stop at all and went straight to the highest mountain peak. And in his hand, there was a person. Yi Changqing recognized the person at a glance. He could not help but be overjoyed. Brother Chung, who is that in your hand? He thought that Vice Principal Chung had brought Xiaoduo out. He was about to go forward to cover them when he suddenly realized that it was not Xiaoduo. Who was this? Why did Vice Principal Chung bring him out? Also, that person seemed to be too pitiful. He was almost half a person. His entire thigh was gone. Ha! My great enemy has been caught today. Vice Principal Chung laughed heartily. He was extremely happy. He flew over like a rainbow and rushed directly to the mountaintop. However, the moment he rushed to the top, he said something in a low voice. Go, come with me. Snake King has gone crazy. He will be here in the blink of an eye. Without stopping, he carried Shiyu from the other side and jumped down. He took the lead and left. Yi Changqing laughed. This is great. After so many years of resentment, I finally got my revenge. Go, let's go and watch. With a wave of his hand, he led everyone from Hidden Dragon High School and flew down together. As old partners for thousands of years, their cooperation was so good that it made one gasp in amazement. Or rather, it made one's hair stand on end. There was not a trace of stagnation or any other disharmony. Our own people can leave, but those bastards can't. If they leave, who will Snake King fight with? Therefore, not only do we have to leave, but we also have to keep these people in check and not let them leave. As a result, the members of the Hidden Dragon High Martial School all disappeared and left. They left behind the people of Jianghu who were confused and did not know what to do. Why did I see that the person who just came was carrying someone? Could be Zhuo Xiaoduo. Idiot. The person who just came is Vice Principal Chung of Hidden Dragon High School. The scar on his face is so obvious. The person he is carrying a person was seriously injured and even lost a leg. But it is definitely not Zhuo Xiaoduo because that person's aura is weak. That is a sign that his cultivation has been crippled. So the enemy. At least, it is not Zhuo Xiaoduo. Since you are so analytical, why don't you analyze what is going on? Why is there a landslide over there? What is happening? What enemy? Had he taken his revenge? What was all this about? Is that class representative coming out to explain again? Shadows swayed. Dozens of people crossed the void and arrived at the highest mountain in an instant. It was the mountain where Hidden Dragon High School was just a moment ago. They frowned. What is going on? Something big must have happened, but there was no need to guess anymore, because the truth had already appeared. A fishy wind suddenly filled the air. Everyone felt the sky turn dark. When they looked up, they were all shocked. In the sky not far away, a long worm the size of an aircraft carrier suddenly appeared. Snake King. Snake King actually came out of the Snake Valley and came over. The huge body seemed to cover the sky. Poisonous fog was flowing all over its body, and it was even spurting blood. As Snake King came out, the clouds in the sky suddenly gathered. Roar! Everyone stared with their eyes wide open, and their whole body trembled. Damn it! We have heard of tigers and lions roaring like that, but when did we hear of a snake roaring like that? What exactly happened that stimulated Snake King to learn a foreign language? At this moment, there was no time to be surprised. Running away was the most important thing. In an instant, everyone scattered like birds and beasts. All of them were cursing Hidden Dragon High School in their hearts. Too evil. This bunch of old bastards. You should have said something that, damn it, you only cared about running for your life. You actually said a few words to stabilize us here. In the end, there was such a big guy behind us. It was obvious that you wanted to drag us into the water and feed us to the snake first. This bunch of bastards, each and every one of you, is evil. But the Snake King, who was unable to restrain its anger, had already reached the point where it could not differentiate between right and wrong. As long as it was a human, it was its enemy and its target. After another roar, it swayed its head and swung its tail, swooping down. With a casual spit of its mouth, the entire area was filled with poisonous rain. A series of screams rang out continuously. Following that, crackling sounds could be heard. Thunder and lightning fell from the clouds and smashed into the forest. Hundreds of bounty hunters had been turned into charcoal in just this one batch. Snake King furiously chased after them. As long as it was a human, it would not let a single one of them go. Give me back my treasure. Give me back my treasure. You bunch of dead two-legged beasts. All you die. Its huge body clashed crazily in the forest, circling back and forth. In an instant, the entire area was turned into a mess. Even if it was a forest that was continuously hit by meteorites, at this moment, the degree of devastation was several times, tens of times, hundreds of times more than before. Countless experts hated that they did not have two more legs at this moment. They were unable to escape faster. Even the experts who thought that they had the strength to deal with this Snake King were retreating far away at this moment to avoid its sharp edge. This snake was obviously crazy. A good person would not get angry with a cow, let alone a huge snake whose mind was in a mess. But everyone was puzzled. What was wrong with this snake? Why was it so agitated? It was as if its wife had been slept with. Snake King roared crazily and attacked. Thunder and lightning struck as it madly chased after them. It rushed in the direction with the most people. In an instant, the entire area became a no-man's land. The huge Snake King was unwilling to give up. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it rushed toward Tiger King's territory to roar. Roar! 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 Tiger King panicked when he saw this and roared repeatedly to stop it. What the fuck? What's wrong with me? Why are you rushing toward me? Normally, we don't interfere with each other's business. I'm not afraid of you. Snake King seemed to have sobered up a little. When it realized that this was already Tiger King's territory, it made a turn and rushed out from the side, continuing to chase after all the humans within its sight. These damn two-legged beasts, they're all dead, all dead. The rumbling outside gradually stopped. Shao crawled out from the bottom of Snake King's nest in fear. Oh my God, what's going on? What happened after that? This is simply a scene of devastation. Didn't I just steal a tree from you? Is there a need for this? How can the scene be so big? Oh my God. Its temper is so fucking explosive. As Shao crawled out, his spatial ring was filled with a few hundred brightly colored snakes. These were naturally the snakes that were originally on the walls of the cave. Xiao, who was still in a daze due to landslide, charged the dragon blood flying dagger with energy. Of course, there were many complete snakes with beautiful skin. They were all packed up by Xiao. These were all money. How could he waste it? In life, wasting is the biggest sin, Xiao's quote. At the start of the explosion, Xiao, who was in the Void Extermination Tower, was swaying left and right, unable to control himself. Xiao couldn't help but worry that the Void Extermination Pagoda would be shattered. Fortunately, he had hidden it well enough. Moreover, the battle between Snake King and Shi Yu and the other 5 happened in mid-air. Snake King rushed down, while Shi Yu rushed up. Naturally, they were above the extreme of the ground. As everyone knew, the power of the explosion went up. Xiao was really lucky. The Tower of Annihilation was still safe and sound. After a long while after the explosion, Xiao trembled and carefully climbed up. Under the search of Xiaolong, he found a spatial ring that was not destroyed. Of course, he kept it with a clear conscience, but still felt a little regretful. 5 people exploded together. How could only 1 ring be left? Why not all of them? At least 3 or 4 rings should be left. Xiao's heart was filled with regret. He quietly crawled out of the rubble and looked around. Well, the result was quite good. The entire Snake Valley could be said to have been destroyed. It was almost impossible to see its original appearance. After being informed by Xiaolong, Xiao certainly knew what had happened. However, he was clueless about the identities of the 6 people. I don't know who they are. Sigh, but they must be seniors of the Jianghu. How could I bear to cheat them like this? Xiao felt very guilty. Long, I am sorry for what I did to these seniors. Look around again and see if there are any spatial rings left by them. I will help them keep them. If there is an opportunity, I will do good for them and help the poor, such as the students of the Hidden Dragon High School. Xiaolong was speechless. He had reached his limit. You're thinking too much. Being able to keep 1 spatial ring after such a self-destruction of a reigning spirit is already a great fortune. And you actually want more? There is no more. There will never be more. Xiao hung the void stone in front of his chest and searched around the Snake Valley. Then he left this place. At this moment, even here, he could still hear the sound of Snake King fighting outside. That madness, that grief, that it made Masters want to cry tears of sympathy. He could not help but want to go and comfort him. After all, he is a monster king. How can no one cooperate with him? He will fight in the front, and I will follow behind to help him keep the spatial rings and other trophies. Chapter 595. I'll put in a little effort to help him clean up, to make up for the trauma of me taking away his snake soul fruit. Anyway, this great demon king has never been interested in those ugly little rings. I'll put in a little effort to help him keep them and then help him digest them. Otherwise, wouldn't it be too wasteful for such a great demon king to kill so many people? Xiao's figure was like lightning. He flew out excitedly, but cautiously. Just as he walked out of the Snake Valley, he saw 7 or 8 corpses. Xiao was instantly excited. Rings. These people's rings were still on their hands. They were clearly waiting for me. Xiao was delighted to see this and rushed over. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 8 rings were in his hands. He even used the dragon blood-flying dagger to stab them. There was a flaw in the otherwise perfect situation. These people were already dead. To the dragon blood-flying dagger, they could not absorb the slightest bit of blood. What a pity! What a pity! Xiaoduo stood up and ran forward. He searched along the way. Stone pits, forests, pools. He plundered along the way and rarely missed anything. Yes, with Xiaolong's help, it would be difficult to miss anything. Everyone, please rest in peace. Xiaoduo muttered as he plundered. You all came to kill me. Now that I have an important matter to attend to, I really don't have time to collect your corpses. Anyway, you're all fugitives. You must have been prepared to expose your corpses in the wilderness. It's reasonable. As a person of the pugilistic world, this is the pugilistic world. Of course, you're here to kill me, so you've caused me a considerable amount of indescribable mental damage. Consider the spatial rings you left behind as compensation for my mental damage. Although it's not enough, I'll accept it. Everyone, rest in peace. Everyone often says that at most, you'll be a hero again after 18 years. Now is the time to prove the truth of this sentence. Everyone, please find the Snake King and the Centipede King in your next life to take revenge. In this life, the grudges between you and me are settled. Everything has nothing to do with me. Do you understand? The Xiaoduo leaped a few hundred meters. His eyes were like lightning as he continued to search around. Finally, fuck! Why are there so many rings in front? There's still a lot of dead people. Zhuo Xiaoduo's current movement speed was based on the level of the Tianyuan escape skill. He was like a shadow, shuttling back and forth among the corpses. In the distance, they could still vaguely see the Snake King's roars. It was still fighting, and it was still stirring up monstrous waves. It chased after the group of martial artists until they fled pathetically. So Xiaoduo continued to loot from behind and reaped all the benefits. This time, the Snake King had gone crazy and killed a lot of people. One had to know that when Snake King rushed out, it was the time when the crowd outside was the most densely packed. The first wave of collisions had created an effect similar to a bomb exploding. Xiaoduo collected a lot of space rings in an instant, but the number was only less than half of the total number of people who had died. Whoosh whoosh, several figures hurried over from afar. The Snake King had killed so many people here and left behind piles of space rings. No one was a fool. Naturally, Xiaoduo was not the only one who was worried about it. There were many others who were worried about it. No, to be more precise, everyone who was still alive was worried about it. This was a huge fortune, and everyone knew it clearly in their hearts. It was just that the Snake King had not gone far before, so no one dared to come over. However, at this moment, the Snake King was in a towering rage. It was already a little far from here. Those who were quick-witted immediately reacted to the situation and rushed over at the same time. In all directions, there were figures flashing and diving in this direction. Those who were rushing over saw a guy from afar. He was diligently dodging left and right at his destination, and he seemed to be so happy that he could not even close his mouth. Everyone's blood was boiling, and they were furious. That scoundrel! One of them shouted, "Put them all down." Xiaoduo ignored him and once again grabbed the 2 rings in his hand. However, the fierce chi from all directions had already descended rapidly and surrounded him from all sides. Xiaoduo hurriedly rolled more than 10 meters away. Then, he used the Tianyuan escape technique without looking back. Whoosh! He turned into a puff of white smoke. It was time to leave. It was important to leave this place. As he rolled, his wig coincidentally fell off, revealing his shiny bald head. The people who had landed did not notice this at all. They were only looking at the fingers of the corpses around them. At first glance, they could not help but feel their internal organs burning and their eyes filled with anger. Most of the corpses had no rings on their fingers. Regardless of whether it was rings, bracelets, belts, anything that could be made into space equipment had all disappeared without a trace. Many people turned around angrily and glared. That bastard. Fuck. Bald head. Xiaoduo. Fuck. That's Xiaoduo. It's really Xiaoduo. They turned their heads so quickly that they could see the bald head flashing in the distance. They shouted almost subconsciously. There were also other people who had just flown over and were still in the air. They saw the shiny bald head even more clearly. So was Xiaoduo. This was really a case of traveling far and wide looking for something, only to find it by chance. In an instant, more than 10 people had already chased over. Then, hundreds of people turned around. Almost no one cared about the rings that might have slipped through the net on the ground. However, the crowd chased all the way through the forest. Chase.'s Xiaoduo had disappeared again. Many experts who had rushed over were dumbfounded. They were so close, so how could he disappear while chasing? He's just in the embryonic breathing realm. How can he be so slippery? How is it possible? Countless people cursed. Was this still in the embryonic breathing realm? Not only was his speed ridiculously fast, but he could also hide his aura so perfectly. Was this really a student of the Hidden Dragon High School? And a freshman? The information couldn't be fake, right? If every student of the Hidden Dragon High School could do this, wouldn't the future of the Hidden Dragon High School dominate the world be set in stone? So Xiaoduo didn't go far. He just changed into another wig and quietly blended into the search crowd. With the void transformation stone on him, no one noticed him at all. They also couldn't detect his aura. Even if they saw him occasionally, they would only think that he was someone who was searching for Xiaoduo like them. At this moment, he was gasping for breath. This time, he had been too greedy. If he hadn't taken the last 2 rings, he would have been able to escape perfectly and wouldn't have exposed his whereabouts. But now, he could only rely on the void transformation stone to avoid danger. However, this further proved that the effect of the void transformation stone was really nature-defying. Long, are there many of these void transformation stones? So Xiaoduo asked. Not many. Of course, there's definitely more than this one, Xiaolong said. Oh, those who are able to obtain this kind of void transformation stone are all extremely lucky people. This thing can only be obtained from falling meteorites. It's extremely rare. Because the meteorites that contain the void transformation stone are only ordinary meteorites without any energy, it's very difficult to find this thing inside. But if you find it, it might be the biggest opportunity in your life. This thing is much more precious than any heaven and earth treasure. Because with this thing, as long as you work hard and increase your cultivation base and strength, you could take on many missions that are beyond your current strength. Compared to treasures, even though you can't say that you can get everything you want, there are still many more possibilities than other people. With this thing, you can be said to be successful in carrying out assassination missions. As long as the target isn't a super strong person who's too much stronger than you and can't be defeated at all, you can basically kill whoever you set your eyes on. It's already so close to you, but you still can't detect it. How can you not die? Xiaolong explained in detail. In other words, if you have this void transformation stone, it's basically like cheating all the way. The possibility of dying halfway will plummet, infinitely close to 0. It's not that exaggerated, but compared to ordinary people, it's 1,000 times less. Xiaolong said, there are always such accidents in this world, such as me. Previously, Ghost Killer also used a void transformation stone to protect himself, but I saw through it with my spiritual eyes. It's the end of the path of fortune. Apart from this kind of accident, as long as you're facing a living thing with divine sense, you can really completely block it, and there's no leak at all. Does that mean that as long as I don't meet a special existence like you, as long as I wear the void transformation stone, it's as if I don't exist? It's not that absolute. Once you meet a super expert whose divine sense has reached perfection and who has reached divine transcendence, you still won't be able to hide. But with your cultivation, boss, at least for a long time, you don't have to worry about meeting such immortals. Chapter 596. Xiaoduo was a little envious. Although not all of those powerful assassins had a void transformation stone, one thing was for sure, there were definitely people who had it. There was no doubt about that. Xiaolong had solemnly explained that there was more than one void transformation stone in this world. So Xiaoduo began to reflect. I have a bad habit of coveting it whenever I see someone else with it. Although I have one myself, I still covet it. It's wrong to have such thoughts. Those assassins didn't provoke me. Why should I covet it? Zhou Xiaoduo, you're too greedy. Zhou Xiaoduo lectured himself. He couldn't help but think, what if they provoke me? In the distance, the sounds of battle were still ongoing. Then, an earth-shattering shriek suddenly rang out. Zhou Xiaoduo looked toward the source of the shriek and saw the Snake King covered in blood. Its huge body was distorted in the air as it drifted toward a certain direction. Blood rained down from the sky like a downpour. Zhou Xiaoduo found it strange. Something didn't seem right. The Snake King seemed to be falling toward the Centipede Valley? The Centipede Queen's territory? The Snake King flew directly over the Tiger King's territory. A huge black tiger suddenly soared up and roared fiercely. Don't come over. As expected, the Snake King didn't go over. Instead, it flew over the Tiger King's valley and the empty area. Then, it landed in the Centipede Valley with a boom. The next moment, the Centipede Queen's shrill shriek rang out in exasperation. You. Get out. The Snake King hissed. Its mentality surged, indicating that it was seriously injured and couldn't get out. The Centipede Queen's emotions exploded instantly. It was unusually furious. Fuck, you flew over so vigorously, and now you're telling me that you're injured and can't get out? Who are you trying to fool? You're obviously up to no good. I have treasures here. You can't stay in my territory. It flew into a rage. Its shriek shook the heavens and the earth. Its enormous mentality filled the air, and its battle intent was pointed directly at the Snake King. Damn, Snake, do you think I'm easy to bully? Get out of here. Get out of here. Go back to your Snake Valley. You piece of trash who doesn't even have legs. Get out. The Centipede Queen roared. Snake King retorted lazily. You're such an idiot that you can die of exhaustion from wearing shoes. Get lost. The Centipede Queen was really anxious. What was this stinky snake trying to do? The Snake King shook his head and wagged his tail, slowly treating his wounds in the Centipede Valley. He unleashed the power of his Niden and began to heal. He completely ignored the furious roar of the Centipede Queen. Get out? What kind of joke was this? I'm not going out. My Snake Valley no longer has anything good. Why would I go back? But you still have it. You want me to leave without giving me half? Right now, I'm barefooted and not afraid of wearing shoes. The two demon kings started an unprecedented confrontation in Centipede Valley. This point, not only was Xiaoduo at a loss, even the people outside were at a loss. The Snake King rushed out furiously and killed so many people in one breath, showing extreme anger and an attitude of not stopping until one of them was dead. Then, it only fought with some human experts beside the Tiger King's territory for a while before falling directly into Centipede Valley. What was going on? What kind of godly development was this? This didn't seem to match the previous situation of rage at all. It's what Xiaoduo pondered for a long time and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He immediately understood and could not help but click his tongue in wonder. This Snake King is truly sinister and cunning. It clearly knew that the good thing it had guarded for many years was gone, so it turned to get the elixir that the Centipede Queen guarded. In terms of the bloodline of the true dragon, the Centipede Queen certainly had it, but the true dragon bloodline in the Snake King's body was much more than the Centipede Queen's. And that dragon soul ginseng was a super good thing that both the Snake King and the Centipede Queen needed. The Snake King didn't come to snatch it previously mainly because of the snake soul fruit that it guarded. To the Snake King, this was already a good thing that wasn't inferior to the dragon soul ginseng. After eating the snake soul fruit, according to the innate talent of its race, it was actually easier to absorb and improve than the dragon soul ginseng. That was why it didn't come to snatch it. But now that the snake soul fruit was gone, the dragon soul ginseng was naturally the best substitute. How could it not come to snatch it? What a joke. Only the virtuous can obtain all the wealth in the world. I, the Snake King, am a virtuous person. When the Snake King rushed out of the Snake Valley, it was really furious. It was full of thoughts of destroying everything and killing everyone in its way. That was a rage that didn't care about anything. It was real. But as it rushed out and killed, this rage found a way to vent. As they gradually approached Centipede Valley, a different thought appeared in their minds. The Snake King, whose rage was gradually calming down, wouldn't forget that the big centipede that occupied this place was also guarding something good. Moreover, it was something that wasn't inferior to its own and was quite suitable for it. Immediately, it had the intention to beat the centipede at its own game. In a state of fury, it rushed over madly. "I'm angry. I don't even know where to go." In the meantime, the Tiger King came out and roared, "Don't come over." The Snake King laughed. "It's just a broken thing behind you. Only a stinky tiger like you thinks it's something good. I don't care about it. There are better things waiting for me to cherish." Therefore, as soon as the two sides came into contact, the Snake King immediately took a detour. But when it came to the Centipede Queen, since it was already here, it might as well take it as it came. It wouldn't leave even if it was beaten to death. But the Snake King coiled into a snake formation in Centipede Valley. As it treated its wounds, its huge eyes flashed with coldness, cunning, and greed. "This stinky centipede actually wants to chase me away? Are you leaving or not?" The Centipede Queen's long whiskers cracked the void. The Snake King hissed and roared, its spiritual power vibrating. "I'm seriously injured now, and you actually want to chase me out? If I go out now, won't I be slaughtered by humans? What are you up to?" The Centipede Queen was furious. "If you're slaughtered, then so be it. What does it have to do with me? Now you're in my territory. No means no. You must leave." The Snake King's spiritual power vibrated, and it sneered. "Humph, Centipede Queen. I thought we're all from the same lineage of the Demon Clan and Star Beasts. I didn't expect you to be so disloyal. You actually want to watch me die?" The Snake King said sternly, "Since you're so heartless, don't blame me for being unrighteous. I'm not leaving. Let's see what you can do to me. You. Scoundrel, shameless. Humph. Not only am I not leaving, but I also want that treasure of yours. Who asked you to be so disloyal? You asked for it." The Snake King was spouting nonsense, but the more it spoke, the more righteous it became. It finally found a reason. The Centipede Queen was so angry that it was dumbfounded. There's actually such a shameless snake in this world. You're obviously here to snatch my good stuff, but you still want to find a reason to accuse me of being unrighteous. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. The Centipede Queen was furious. "You're just coveting my good stuff. Let me tell you, you're delusional." The Snake King sneered. "I didn't want to snatch it at first. I've been taking into account our many years of friendship. But now, your disloyalty has angered me. Now, at this moment, I must snatch it. This is the price you have to pay for being disloyal." The more the Snake King spoke, the more it felt that it was reasonable. "That's how it should be done. I didn't mean to snatch it from you, but you actually want to chase me away. You're so heartless. If I don't snatch it from you, who else should I snatch it from?" The Centipede Queen was enraged by the Snake King's behavior. It roared sharply and charged forward. "I can't win against it. Why did it become my fault after all this talk? So, you're here to snatch it from me, and I'm the one who's sorry? How can this be explained in this way?" But the problem was that, as it continued, even the Centipede Queen felt. "Why do I feel that this stinky snake's words make sense? But I'm so angry. How can this be? I'm so angry. Forget it. Let's fight." The Snake King roared angrily. "You actually want to kill me? Centipede Queen, I didn't expect you to be such a star beast. Have you forgotten the glory of the star beast ancestor? You've betrayed the agreement of your ancestors. You've betrayed the bloodline of the Demon Clan." The Snake King was furious. It dodged and roared with grief and indignation. "Centipede Queen, you're too despicable, shameless, and heartless. Stop it. Stop it. You're really hitting me? You're hurting me. You. I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. You want to kill me? Then I'll kill you first." The Snake King rose with a loud rumble and charged forward. The Centipede Queen wasn't good with words. It was so angry that its antennae were straightened. "I can't win against it. This stinky snake has a sharp tongue. Let's fight. No matter how reasonable you are, it's not as good as strength. Heaven and earth bear witness that the centipede queen wants to harm me. The demon ancestor will be a witness. Centipede queen, I'll punish you on behalf of the demon clan and the demon ancestor. Now that Snake King had found a reason to do so, he started to fight confidently. I'll punish you on behalf of the heavens. I'm open and above board. The two-star beast kings started to fight. The battle was earth-shattering. Yes, it was really earth-shattering this time. The sun and moon lost their light. Duo was hiding in a tree hole. He was truly in awe of the Snake King's actions. He could only admire the Snake King from the bottom of his heart. This Snake King is really too shameless. It's using the fact that I'm not the demon ancestor, and it still has the upper hand. I'm going to be reasonable. Compared to this snake, I'm still too thin-skinned. I need to learn. I need to strengthen myself. I need to strengthen myself. This battle was much more intense than the previous one. The two behemoths collided underground, and the entire valley shook. Then, the two demon kings soared into the air at the same time, continuing their battle in the air. Obviously, they were worried that their power would damage the spiritual herbs. The centipede queen. The spiritual herbs can't be damaged. I want to eat more. The snake king. The spiritual herbs can't be damaged. I want to eat more. The wind howled, and the trees below were all snapped. Intentionally or unintentionally, they were all moving toward the Tiger King Valley at the Snake King and the Centipede Queen. The Tiger Kings can be damaged, but that's not suitable for me. A big black tiger rushed into the sky and roared. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Although it wasn't part of the battle, the Tiger King was still furious. You can fight in the Centipede Valley or the Snake Valley, but why are you fighting in the sky above me? You're worried that your spiritual herbs will be damaged, but I'm not afraid that my spiritual herbs will be damaged too. Damn it. These two bastards deserve to die. They deserve to die. I'm leaving. I'm going to take a bath and have a massage. I'm done updating today. Chapter 597. Stop fighting. The Tiger King's spiritual power also shook the void. His huge body flew into the air and spun around anxiously. However, both the Snake King and the Centipede Queen ignored him completely. Their bodies, which were hundreds of meters long, twisted and turned in the air as they fought crazily. Stop fighting just because you said so? Who do you think you are? If you want to fight, go to your side and fight. The Tiger King was furious. Go to our side and fight? Do you think we are stupid? It's because we can't fight there that we came here. The Centipede Queen screamed and spat out poisonous fog and venom. The Snake King also screamed and spat out poisonous fog and venom. As the battle continued, the Centipede Queen revealed its true form. Thousands of long, slender legs covered in black hair scratched and scratched crazily. 9 heads even rushed forward to bite. The Snake King screamed at the sky. Countless lightning bolts struck the Centipede Queen's body. That long tail was like a big stick with infinite power. It was soft but hard and soft but soft. It continued to whip continuously, without end. The two demon kings each had their own strengths. One was up and one was down, up and down. The fight shook the void. Black spatial cracks flashed and appeared continuously. The scene was soul-stirring and frightening. None of the meteorites that fell from the sky were wasted. They were either sent flying by the Snake King or the Centipede King. Every single one of them crashed into the valley where the Tiger King was located. That damn tiger. His words were nice, but in reality, he just stood by the side and watched us fight. Despicable human ants always say to sit on a mountain and watch the tigers fight. Today, we are the ones being watched by the tiger. Let you watch. Let you watch. I will smash you to death. The Tiger King rose into the air and ran back and forth. He roared crazily. Are you provoking me? Before it could finish its sentence, the Centipede Queen turned its head and spat out a mouthful of venom. The Snake King followed suit, turning its head and spitting out a mouthful of thick venom as well. What are you shouting for? Seeing this, the Tiger King became even more furious. All the hair on his body stood up. At this moment, he was extremely furious. I'm here to mediate. You two bastards actually dare to hit me. Do you think I have a good temper? With a loud explosion, energy surged out, instantly diverting the rainstorm like venom away. Whooshed out like a flash flood, the poisonous fog turned to the other side. Tian Wujiang and the others were on the other side, watching the battle from at least 70 miles away. Hearing that Zhuo had been discovered nearby, Tian Wujiang hurriedly brought his men over. In the end, he only saw the Demon Kings fighting. There was no sign of Zhuo. Tian Wujiang speculated that the temporary alliance he had formed was not weak. However, he did not know if he could take advantage of the situation when the two great Demon Kings were fighting. Or, should I hide here for a while and wait for Zhuo? However, he had never expected that just as this thought arose in his mind, he would be attacked by a torrential rain of venom in less than a quarter of an hour before he was hit by a torrential downpour of venom. The sudden arrival of the poisonous fog and venom enveloped an area of several hundred feet. It was difficult to dodge. Those with higher cultivation hurriedly put up a spiritual energy shield, but many with lower cultivation were hit on the spot. The spiritual energy shield could not withstand the demonic aura of the two great demon kings and was instantly penetrated. The venom splattered all over their bodies. They screamed and rolled on the ground. Not long after, they died on the spot. The flesh of the corpses melted quickly, revealing the white bones. Even the white bones were corroded with spots. They were also in the process of melting, but the speed was slightly slower. Just this unexpected disaster alone caused 8 people to lose their lives. When a real person was sitting at home, disaster came from the sky. Those who lost their lives were all nascent soul cultivators. In the outside world, they were almost grandmaster-level cultivators. But here, they were almost synonymous with being unable to withstand a single blow. However, at this moment, Tian Wujiang and the remaining people were looking at another person with strange gazes. Among these people, there were a total of 9 nascent soul cultivators. 8 of them were already dead. Among them, there was no lack of peak nascent soul cultivators. The remaining person looked like he was only in the middle stage of nascent soul, but the spiritual energy shield he put up was abnormally strong. Not only did the rainstorm-like venom not break through the shield did not even shake. Tian Wujiang's gaze became strange. What is your name? I am Zhao Song. This person had a curly beard and his eyes were full of surprise. Why did you suddenly ask for my name? This is very surprising. Tian Wujiang smiled. How many times have you walked the thorny road, little brother Zhao? Your foundation is very deep. Zhao Song sighed in relief. Back then, I walked the thorny road 6 times. That pain was really. He sighed. It is unbearable to look back on, but at least there is some comfort. Tian Wujiang smiled faintly. 6 thorny road. A peerless genius. Zhao Song, your foundation is so solid. In the future, you will definitely shine brightly and go very, very far. Zhao Song smiled. Thank you, senior. Suddenly, he screamed and looked at Tian Wujiang in disbelief. You, why? Only to see a long sword flickering with cold light had already been slowly pulled out of his chest. The body of the long sword was still flickering with light, and there was still a strong yuan qi vibrating on the body of the sword, directly shattering the area around Zhao Song's wound into pieces. Until the long sword was completely pulled out, the sword light was still cold. There was a drop of blood on the tip of the sword, and the owner of this long sword was Tian Wujiang. Zhao Song was still holding on to his last breath. He looked at Tian Wujiang and asked in disbelief, Why? He looked straight at Tian Wujiang. If he could not get a reason, he would not die in peace. He had already recognized you as his big brother. Why did you suddenly kill him? On the side, Sang Jiushuan also turned his head and looked at Tian Wujiang. He shouted angrily, Tian Wujiang, what are you doing? Why did you kill him? Tian Wujiang calmly put the sword back into its sheath. He said faintly, "How can a lone cultivator be able to walk the thorny road 6 times? There must be another organization behind him. It must be one of the big sects or the seeds of the big martial arts sects. When I said that he was a peerless genius, was that a lie? And this person must have mixed in with us for a purpose. So, this person is not normal," Sang Jiushuan said angrily. "But this is only a suspicion. What if you kill the wrong person?" Tian Wujiang said faintly, "Brother Sang, we are assassins, not judges. Just a suspicion. Isn't that enough?" He looked at Sang Jiushuan with a cold gaze and said indifferently, "In this world, what does a mere human life count for? Even if we kill the wrong person, so what? Not to mention, with this kind of talent, if he's given time to grow, he will definitely be a competitor in one of our missions. At that time, we might even be killed by him. If that day really comes, Brother Sang, do you still hope that the other party will spare your life for today's sake? Since that is the case, since you have doubts, then just kill him directly. It is the simplest and most straightforward way. Why do you have so many questions?" Tian Wujiang smiled faintly. His eyes were full of ruthlessness and coldness. Jealous of the talented. This kind of thing was not uncommon. For people like Tian Wujiang, if there was a genius in front of them with a solid foundation that they had never reached, then their first reaction would be to kill. They could not allow this ant in front of them to suddenly surpass them in a short time and show off in front of them. Not to mention that they might be killed by this ant in the future. Even just thinking about it made their killing intense surge. Mingling in the underworld, they had no friends. Any genius that matured would be a suspect for killing them in the future in exchange for a reward. Zhao Qingsong's throat gurgled. His eyes were full of anger and hatred as he fell on his back. With the last of his strength, he suddenly crushed a command arrow in his hand. He roared towards the sky. "The one who killed me, Tian Wujiang." His face was full of relief and despair. His body fell down with a bang. Tian Wujiang suddenly made a move, but it was too late. The arrow whistled into the sky and exploded in midair. Immediately, a long sword shadow appeared in the sky. That sword shadow whistled in the air for a moment, then flew towards the east. It flew forward courageously. The more it flew, the fainter it became, but it kept flying. The sword was out of its sheath, and it vowed not to return. No return sword. The moment this sharp sword exploded, suddenly, another person from the group of assassins rushed into the sky and shouted, "The one who killed me, Tian Wujiang." Even further away, more sword lights flashed and rushed into the sky. All of them shouted, "The one who killed me, Tian Wujiang." Countless command arrows rushed into the sky one after another. Boom, boom. More voices roared. "The one who killed me, Tian Wujiang." Tian Wujiang's face suddenly paled, no longer having the color of blood. No return sword. Sang Jiushuan's face showed a strange expression. "Brother Tian, you saw right. You killed right. This person is indeed a traitor. Based on his cultivation and age, he should be a graduate of Water City First High School's Guqian fan. He snuck in. But this little brother has to leave. I can't get involved in this muddy water." Sang Jiushuan was full of schadenfreude. The others had the same expression. Tian Wujiang's face was pale. He only felt that there was something wrong with this person. He immediately made a move to kill him to avoid a disaster. But he never thought that this kill would bring out a hornet's nest. A graduate of Water City First High School's Guqian fan? This made him want to cry, but no tears came out. "You should have said so earlier. If you had said so earlier, not only would I not have killed you, I would have worshipped you." Who didn't know that no return sword, Gu Qianfan, was the most protective? Who didn't know that Gu Qianfan was famous for taking revenge? Who didn't know that Gu Qianfan was Nan Zhengqian's favorite general? Who didn't know the unity of Water City First High School's graduates? Damn it, that a voice boomed in the sky. "All graduates of Water City First High School, listen to this order. I just contacted the old principal. The old principal has ordered, effective immediately, Tian Wujiang is on the must-kill list of Water City First High School's graduates, including his 9 relatives. All are on the must-kill list. If Water City doesn't fall, the must-kill list will not disappear. Chapter 598. Suddenly, many people rushed to the sky and shouted, "If Shui City doesn't fall, the order to kill will not disappear. Tian Wujiang must be killed. 9 generations of his family must be exterminated." Students, the ones who spoke have been exposed. For the time being, they are not Tian Wujiang's opponent. Take your graduation certificate and go to Principal Yi of Hidden Dragon High School to seek protection. Students who are still in hiding, continue. Don't expose yourselves. This person shouted, "Everyone follow me. Anyone who stands in our way is an enemy of Shui City First High School." Before he finished speaking, he had already moved. He rushed out of the forest and stood in the air. The sword in his hand shone with a cold light. But neither Tian Wujiang nor Sang Jiuxuan made a move. Yes, they did not dare to make a move. Silhouettes appeared one after another. Quickly, 40 to 50 people gathered. The person in front shouted, "Is there anyone else?" There was no response. This person turned around in the air and shouted, "Tian Wujiang, you dare to kill Shui City First High School's people. Just you wait." After he finished speaking, these 40 to 50 people in the air chased after Hidden Dragon High School's people. The entire mountain range had thousands of assassins, but no one stopped them. These people had all received Gu Qianfan's order to hide and protect Zuoxiaoduo. But now they were exposed. But no one dared to make a move against them and kill them. If they made a move now, they would be declaring their position and opposing Shui City First High School. They would be opposing the political and educational institutions. They would even be opposing the military. No one dared to act rashly. Even Tian Wujiang, who had already made a move. Tian Wujiang's face turned gray. Even when he faced Yi Changqing, he was not as scared as he was now. Yi Changqing was a person who cared about the big picture. Most of the time, he was more worried about sacrifice. He could not bear to make too many decisive decisions. But Gu Qianfan was different. As long as Gu Qianfan issued an order, he never cared about how many people would die in the process. He only cared about whether the order was completed or not. Shui City First High School was not even an advanced martial arts school. But the people from Shui City First High School could run amok in the mainland. Why? It was because they had the support of the fearless old headmaster, the former #1 general of the Southern Army. Back then, someone killed a student who was carrying out Gu Qianfan's mission in Shui Cheng #1 Middle School. Gu Qianfan dragged his disabled body and chased him for 10,000 miles. The safety of Shui City #1 Middle School was built on mountains of bones. Sang Jiuxuan was the first to turn and leave. Then, almost everyone quietly got up and left with Sang Jiuxuan. "We won't get involved in this mess." "Brother Sang," Tian Wujiang's cry even had a hint of pleading. "Don't call me. I can't help you. If I continue to stand with you, I'll only be dragged down by you. Don't tell me you don't know about the 9 clans?" Sang Jiuxuan turned around and said faintly, "This is Jiang Hu. Brother Tian, you know very well why you killed people. The real reason was that the thorns had appeared 6 times. You're just jealous, that's all. Even if you killed the right person and your so-called reasoning made sense, it still couldn't cover up your original intentions. You were just so narrow-minded. And we're leaving you now just to seek benefits and avoid harm." Sang Jiuxuan said, "As you said, in this Jianghu, is there still any loyalty? I'll take Zhao Qingsong's body and spatial ring. I'll find a way to return it to the people of Shui City #1 Middle School." After saying that, he completely ignored Tian Wujiang's pleading gaze and left with his people. Tian Wujiang was speechless. Looking at Sang Jiuxuan carrying Zhao Qingsong, who was already silent, he felt infinite regret and muttered, "Why didn't you say so earlier? You should have said so earlier." This was just like when he killed Zuoxiaoduo. Killing Zuoxiaoduo, or the people who protected him during the mission, was only a personal grudge. And if Zhao Qingsong's identity was exposed, or if he was killed while protecting Xiaoduo, it was still a personal grudge. However, right now, he had been killed for no reason at all. The only reason was because Tian Wujiang was jealous of his talent and his selfishness. Then Water City First High School would definitely seek justice from him. Many times, Jiang Hu was so direct. Both were killing people, but the consequences were completely different if there was a reason or no reason. If he killed Zhuo Xiaoduo with so much bounty, it would be worth it to bear the revenge of the Hidden Dragon High School. When his strength improved, things would change with the passage of time, and perhaps this matter would be left unsettled. But the target changed to Water City First High School. That Gu Qianfan would never let it go. As long as Water City First High School doesn't fall, the order to kill will not disappear. This was Gu Qianfan's attitude. He would always be so reckless, and his sword would never turn back. This was his style. If he said he wanted to kill you, kill your whole family, and exterminate your 9 generations, he would definitely do it. There were no exceptions before, and there would be no exceptions now. Damn it, I'm so unlucky. Tian Wujiang wanted to cry, but had no tears. He couldn't control himself. Then his eyes turned to the jungle. He was also an experienced Jianghu man. He knew that there was no turning back. The only way to survive was to kill Zhuo Xiaoduo and get the bounty so that his bottleneck could be broken. Then, he would find a place to cultivate for a period of time to avoid the assassination of Water City First High School. If his cultivation was stuck at the bottleneck now, there was no possibility of survival. He had to kill Zhuo Xiaoduo. He had to. In order to survive, Zhuo Xiaoduo had to die. Zhuo Xiaoduo was in happy trouble at the moment. What should he do now? Now, the Centipede King and the Snake King were fighting, and the Tiger King was constantly moving in the air to resist the aftermath of the battle as much as possible. Obviously, he wouldn't fall down for a while. Once he fell, it meant that the aftermath of the battle between the two kings would also fall. The Tiger King couldn't afford such a risk. Even if the Tiger King was fuming with anger and hated the two detestable guys in front of him, he couldn't think of any other way. He could only passively resist the aftermath of the battle to ensure that the treasure he was guarding wouldn't be affected. In the sky, the Centipede King and the Snake King were fighting fiercely. Their movements are getting bigger and bigger, and their power was getting stronger and stronger. The two behemoths were fighting fiercely in the sky. It was a life-and-death battle, and they were gradually approaching the point where they wouldn't stop until one of them was dead. There was another one slightly lower down, running back and forth. As for the humans who were searching for Xiaoduo in the mountains, the 3 monster kings showed no mercy. Once they found someone close to the battle, they immediately pierced it with a spray of venom, not to mention the many people who were hit by the aftermath of the battle. Gradually, there were fewer and fewer people around. However, a ghost-like figure, using some unknown method, quietly approached the battle circle, found a place, and hid. Once this person hid, he was like a chameleon lying on a tree trunk. It was so natural that no one could see him at all. He swayed left and right, back and forth, following the waves of the battle. He really didn't reveal any flaws at all. The location that this person chose was very close to the Centipede Valley. It could even be said that he was already within the range of the Centipede Valley. However, the 3 monster kings in the sky didn't notice him at all. So Xiaoduo was hesitating. Should he get the Heavenly Tiger Moonlight Ointment or the Dragon Soul Ginseng first? This was really a blissful problem. However, after thinking for a long time, so Xiaoduo still decided to go and take a look at the Heavenly Tiger Moonlight Ointment first. Why not get the Dragon Soul Ginseng? One of the reasons was that, after all, he had played with the Centipede King for so long and tried so many different positions. He still had some feelings for it, of course. This was definitely not the main reason. The main reason was that, if he dug up the Dragon Soul Ginseng now, the 2 monster kings would immediately stop fighting and work together to find the thief. Stop fighting, no. Turn to find a thief, even more no. So Xiaoduo quickly headed toward the Tiger King Valley. Right at this moment, in the sky above the starry mountains, 3 people floated in the clouds and suddenly gathered together. However, all of them looked solemn. Did you find it? No. What about you? There's no movement at all. What's going on? Why did he suddenly disappear? We can't not report it. It's been a long time now. Any possible variables are enough to appear. One of them had a distorted expression, and he seemed to be so speechless that he was heartbroken. The other two were silent, and their faces were also dark. An extremely oppressive atmosphere gradually spread in the air. It was simply indescribable. Motherfucker. The three of them never thought that Zhuo, who was under their soul binding and strict protection, and even had Chief Nan's clone protecting them, suddenly, it disappeared. Disappeared, as if he had evaporated from the whole world. At first, everything was fine. After the soul binding, they felt that this fellow was like a mouse digging holes continuously. They even thought that it was very interesting. But, all of a sudden, it was gone. Moreover, he was not in the hole. It was better in the hole, but when he went up to the surface, he disappeared in an instant. What the fuck? How could this be? Why did he suddenly disappear? Why did he suddenly disappear for no reason? They did not know that Zhuo had obtained the Void Transformation Stone. They only knew that Zhuo, who was still locked on by their divine senses, suddenly disappeared. This was bad. I'm afraid that this will delay the important matter. The final result of this situation is secondary. This person must not be harmed. This is the only option that was set in place from the beginning. One of them smiled bitterly. Damn it. The Heavenly King sent the three of us to do this task. He repeatedly said that we must protect the key person of the task. But now, how do we lose him? The Heavenly King will definitely be furious. The other person sighed. This matters because of us. But we can't delay it any longer. It's been a long time. All right. The three of them rose with the wind and chose a place to adjust the satellite phone signal. After a few more words of discussion, they dialed the number. The phone had only rung for half a second when the other side picked up immediately. Why are you calling? What's going on? The three of them were shocked. Since when did the Heavenly King pick up the phone so quickly? Heavenly King, there's an unexpected situation. The three of them hesitated. Oh, what unexpected situation? The Heavenly King asked immediately. That kid disappeared. When the person said this, his face was full of shame. Chapter 599. They had never done such a shameful task in their lives. Under such circumstances, they had to set up a trap and catch some rats. Protecting the people who set up the trap was just a matter of convenience. That this was not difficult at all. It was a very simple task. So many people who were not as good as the three of them had succeeded and were fine. This time it was obviously the Heavenly King who had asked the three of them to do it personally. However, it was the three of them who had made a mistake. Who could they reason with? His illustrious reputation was ruined. On the phone, the Heavenly King of the Right seemed to be silent. Then, after a while, he asked in a dreamy voice, what? That kid? Who is missing? They did not know if they had heard wrongly, but the Heavenly King of the Right seemed to be stuttering at this moment. It's the kid you asked us to protect. The leader explained. Zhuo suddenly disappeared. Then there was a pause. Then there was a rumbling sound from the phone. It seemed like something had fallen down. Then the Heavenly King of the Right's voice sounded in exasperation. What do you mean? How could such a fine person suddenly disappear? Isn't there soul binding? Did the three of you make a mistake? Don't joke around, especially now. This person's heart could not help but stop beating for a moment. The Heavenly King of the Right. This kind of exasperated tone did not seem normal. There is a soul binding, but I don't know what happened. The soul binding suddenly disappeared. We can't sense it at all. We have used our divine sense to search the entire Starry Mountains, but we still can't find him. The other side of the phone was silent for a long time. After a long time, the Heavenly King of the Right said, as if he was sleepwalking, under what circumstances can the soul binding disappear? The three of them felt more and more strange. Under what circumstances can the soul binding disappear? You, the Heavenly King of the Right, don't know this? Why are you asking us? But since the Heavenly King asked, of course they had to answer. Cough. This is hard to say. For example, when a person dies and his original soul is gone, naturally. Or, this person explained with difficulty. Bang, there was another sound from the other side of the phone. The phone was suddenly hung up. It was hung up. The three of them looked at each other, but at the same time, they had the same thought. There was something wrong with the situation. Something was very wrong. Something was very wrong. Tens of thousands of miles away. In an office that looked luxurious, but was actually even more luxurious, the deep-sea solidwood chair had been shattered. The Heavenly King of the right sat on the ground without a care for his image. He was dumbfounded as he stared at the latest mobile phone in front of him that had been crumpled into a ball. His face was filled with confusion for a long time. What happened just now? Why did I crush the phone? I really like this latest model of cell phone. Only then did he react. This is bad. He hurriedly went out to look for another phone. Give me your phone. What's his phone number again? Fuck, you don't know? How dare you tell me? Do you know who knows? Quick, hurry up. After a while, the phone was connected again. Unconventional asked nervously. How was the mission going? The three of them were stunned. Didn't I just report to you? Can you change the phone number and ask again? Can you change the result? The mission is going well, and a lot of targets have been locked. And now, Starshield everywhere is already in action. I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about that kid, the one I asked you to protect. What did he say just now? He's gone? Yes. Heavenly King, I don't know what happened to that kid. He just disappeared. We've been looking for him for a long time, but we haven't found him. On the other side, the Heavenly King's breathing became heavy. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, What do you mean you haven't found him? If you haven't found him, continue to look. The three of you. What are you doing? You can't even handle such a small matter. You guys are. The phone was hung up again. Duh. The three of them looked at the phone and became more and more depressed. We didn't want this result either. But the Heavenly King's reaction wasn't right. Did he have to be so intense? Wasn't he just a young genius in the embryonic breathing realm? As the saying goes, one shouldn't bother with trifles to achieve great things. Although we are more upright, sometimes we will make certain compromises that on the other side of the office. Unconventional looked at the phone with a dazed expression. He was gone. Xiao Duo was gone. He had disappeared under the protection of the three experts that he had personally arranged. With the lineup that he had arranged, even if the three of them were to escort Xiao Duo to the Alliance, as long as they didn't deliberately seek death, there was a certain chance that they would be able to escape unscathed, but in the astral souls, using the method of soul locking to protect Xiao Duo. They had actually lost Xiao Duo. That was soul locking. This was so serious. The sky was falling. These were the words that popped up in Unconventional's mind at the first moment. Yes, the sky was falling. This action had gone to the extent of seeking death. He had really dug his own grave. If it was only Uncle's, well, maybe there was a slight possibility. Accept reality. Or rather, consider the big picture. But there was also Answa, who hadn't given birth for so many years and had always been looking forward to having her own flesh and blood. Now, I've lost her precious treasure. It was also possible that he had already. Oh my God. Many people passed by and bowed respectfully to the Heavenly King. But they all saw that the Heavenly King was thinking about something seriously. Perhaps the Heavenly King was thinking about the situation in the continent again. You've worked so hard. We can't disturb you. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard the Heavenly King let out a blood-curdling scream. This scream was so miserable that it was enough to make people cry when they heard it. Everyone looked at him in shock. The Heavenly King of the right, who had always cared about his image, suddenly squatted on the ground. He grabbed his hair with both hands and shouted, "Oh my God! Let me die! Let me die!" The Heavenly King screamed so miserably that he looked like he was about to cry that everyone was shocked and immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Something that could make the Heavenly King react so violently must be something big, something very big. Don't listen to it. If there was anything that needed to be done, the the Heavenly King would naturally arrange it. But now, everyone had to go to their respective places and find their own mothers. Otherwise, once the Heavenly King gave the order, it would be too late. At this moment, any slight negligence would cause trouble and become a punching bag for the Heavenly King. That Unconventional returned to the office in a daze. His first reaction was, what should I do about this? He dialed the number. Nanjungxian. Unconventional roared. Where's your clone's protection? Chief Nan was shocked. The Heavenly King of the Right called to ask about this? What did he mean? Why did it feel like he was denouncing him? It didn't move. I didn't feel anything. It didn't activate. Chief Nim was confused. What's wrong? What's wrong? Unconventional gritted his teeth and said, Nanjungxian, you're finished. Let me tell you, under the protection of your doppelganger, Duo disappeared, and disappeared. Chief Nan's head buzzed the moment he heard the news. For a moment, he was so dizzy that he didn't even hear Unconventional's words. There was only one thought in his mind. Xiao Duo disappeared. His vision suddenly turned black. He collapsed on the sofa and muttered to himself, disappeared. Disappeared? He suddenly reacted and grabbed the phone tightly. What's going on? Didn't you promise me last time? How? How did he disappear? He said anxiously, let me tell you, Unconventional, you're the Heavenly King. I can't beat you. But what do you mean by disappeared under the protection of my clone? What do you mean? What's going on? Over at Unconventional's side, he recounted what had happened in a weak voice. That's what happened. Anyway, he's gone. Unconventional hung his head dejectedly. Tell me, what should we do about this? Nanjungxian's face instantly turned pale. He felt as if his heart had stopped beating at this moment. There was only darkness in front of him. The sky was falling and the earth was collapsing. It was a scene of doomsday. He even lost consciousness. He could only hear his own voice saying to Unconventional, this can't be hidden. Unconventional's voice was obviously out of his wits. Do you want to say it, or should I? Nanjungxian collapsed on the sofa in despair and muttered, whatever. Anyway, I have nothing to live for now. You can shift the blame however you want. Unconventional, who shifted the blame? But this matter, we have to give an explanation. Even if we can hide it for a while, how long can we hide it? I'm panicking now. Nan, this matter. Unconventional, fuck you. Chief Nan suddenly reacted. He suddenly struggled out of his throat and shouted, I told you not to do it at that time, but you insisted on doing it. Where's your confidence? Where's your promise? I. Finally, he couldn't say anything. He choked for a while and then scolded harshly. What's the use of you? If it's really gone, Unconventional, you'll be a sinner for all eternity. On the other side, Unconventional hung his head weakly. He was scolded silently and didn't say a word. Purely in terms of rank, although Chief Nan had a high position and power, he was still inferior to the Heavenly King of the Right. Now, he was being scolded by Nanjungxian, but he didn't refute a single word. He only looked depressed and a little hesitant. What should he do? How should he end it? Just as Chief Nan said, he couldn't drag it out. This bad news had to be reported no matter what. On the phone, Chief Nan's voice slowly recovered. That's not right. Tell me what happened. How did it disappear? Disappeared? Did he disappear? Is it confirmed that it's dead? When he said the last word dead, Chief Nan's voice was extremely hoarse. His vision turned black and then bright, as if the universe had exploded in front of him. Chapter 600. It's gone. It's also gone. But it's not confirmed that it's dead, and there's no corpse. That's why I asked you about it. Unconventional's voice was full of disappointment. But there's no information from the soul binding. That's a soul locking. There's almost no other possibility. Department head then took a deep breath and resisted the urge to curse. Forget it. Since it's already like this, there's no point in talking about it. I'll give Brotherswo a call. Suddenly, he remembered. No, Brotherswo blacklisted my number the last time. He said weakly, it's better for you to call. I'm not trying to shift the blame. I'm destined not to be able to shift the blame. No matter what, I'm responsible for it. But I was blacklisted after reporting the setup last time. I really can't contact him. Yu Dongtian's hair stood on end as he listened. Nan Zhengxian was blacklisted? He was blacklisted after reporting the setup. The information revealed within this was simply shocking to those who heard it, and the awe-inspiring meaning was self-evident. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and finally said dejectedly, "Okay, I'll do it. Sigh, I'll do it." Nan Zhengxian's voice was full of resentment and mockery. "You're a heavenly king. You're full of confidence. You dare to do anything. You dare to set up any setup. You can handle it. You're tall. You're awesome. You." Yu Dongtian hung up the phone. It was a loud bang. Department head Nan smashed the office. "Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you." Department head Nan smashed half of the building. Finally, he stopped. He curled up in the chair and hugged his head with both hands. No one knew the severity of the consequences better than him. Brothers might be able to take care of the big picture, but there was still his sister-in-law. She was an even more terrifying existence. That Brothers was a minister, but his sister-in-law had no position. She had no scruples. She could do anything. Now, that after being childless for so many years, she finally had a precious child. Even when she couldn't cultivate, she still pampered her to the heavens. Now that he had displayed his talent, looked down on everyone, and was about to soar into the sky, his sister-in-law did not know how happy she would be. Now, once this news was sent over, Chief Nin didn't dare to think any further. On the other side, Yu Dongtian hesitated for a long time before he finally pulled out that phone number. He felt a sense of despair, as if he was about to be executed. However, he still hardened his heart and suppressed it. Beep. No one answered the phone. Continue. The call was directly cut off. Yu Dongtian's face was ashen as he waited on the chair. Sure enough, he received a message. Something happened. The message says, "Yu Dongtian looked as if your parents had died." She typed heavily, "Xiao Duo you." Disappeared. After a long pause, Yu Dongtian could even imagine the reactions and expressions on the other side. The other side finally sent a new message. Dead? Yu Dongtian hurriedly sent a message. "No, I don't think so. It's just that he suddenly disappeared very strangely. The divine sense I placed on him failed to lock on, and the clone protection was not activated. In short, he disappeared very strangely. I don't know what happened for now. Perhaps there's another reason. Perhaps because he had been an official for a long time, Yu Dongtian instinctively did not insist on his words and left some room for negotiation. Of course, he also sincerely hoped that there was really another reason. Even if he was mocked for being ignorant and inexperienced, it was fine. Ding dong. A new message came. The divine sense lock on him is gone. The clone protection was not activated. Yu Dongtian hurriedly replied, "Yes, it's just that I can't figure it out. So I quickly reported it to you to see if you have any other ideas." Ding dong. A few new messages came in one after another. "I don't deserve to be called Heavenly King. I don't have any more ideas." Ding dong. "I'll give you 2 more days to find the person or the corpse." Ding dong. "If you find the person, I'll invite your father and your excellency to my house. If you find the corpse, I'll visit your house." Ding dong. "I have to say that you're quite lucky. My wife just happened to go grocery shopping. However, I can only delay this news for 2 more days. I hope your luck is on your side." Yu Dongtian immediately broke out in cold sweat. As soon as he put down the phone, he turned his gaze to the message interface. The conversation on the phone just now made his scalp tingle uncontrollably. Every word was like a knife to the heart. But Uncle Zhuo was Uncle Zhuo. In the end, he still gave him 2 days of buffer time. But this sentence was a little uncomfortable. Find the person or the corpse. This that I only dare to look for the person, but I don't dare to look for the corpse. But is the person still there? No, the person must still be there. Yu Dongtian once again studied the message word by word. His heart slowly calmed down. Uncle Zhuo indeed gave me a hint. Yu Dongtian stood up and paced slowly. Yes, this was obvious. Give him 2 days to find the person or the corpse. There was a lot of wisdom in this sentence. If it were an ordinary person, they would probably only see the literal meaning. However, Yu Dongtian was different. After so many years of experience in the martial world, how could he not understand some things? As the saying went, father and son are connected by heart. Mother and son are connected by heart. This was never just a saying. For example, if a mother suddenly missed her son very much one night, or dreamed that her son came to bid her farewell, just like a father who suddenly felt unbearable palpitations. But it was not a heart attack, that usually at this time the person closest to him had left, or something had happened. And what Uncle Zwa meant by this sentence was that he did not feel anything. It was Uncle Zwa. It was not an exaggeration to say that his spiritual sense was unparalleled in the world. If even he, as a father, did not feel anything, it meant that the little guy was still alive. Even if he was in danger, however, he still wasn't dead yet. Thinking deeper, although the soul lock had failed, Chief Nan's doppelganger protection was entrusted to Zwa Xiaoduo. It would only take effect when he was in danger. Since it did not take effect, did it mean that the doppelganger protection was still there? Which meant that Zwa Xiaoduo was not in danger at all, so there was no need for the doppelganger protection. As for being a guest, Yu Dongtian did not think about it for now. He had to find the person first. It would be best if he did not go to your house as a guest. He could not afford to eat at your house. Don't come to my house as a guest. My house could not afford to have you as a guest at this point. Although most of it was just his own speculation, Yu Dongtian immediately felt alive again. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, that was good. That was good. He grabbed the phone and put it down. He muttered to himself, I'll go over now and see what's going on. I should be able to make it. I must be able to make it. Look here, there should not be much pressure, right? After thinking about it, he finally made another call. I'll give you 1 day and 1 night. You must find Zwa Xiaoduo's whereabouts. If he's fine, you must give me full protection. If there's anything wrong, you don't have to come back. He hung up the phone and immediately left. There hasn't been any big movement over there recently. Although the Flood Witch and the Raging Fire, which are frequently active, the situation at the border is not too dangerous. Everyone is wondering why the senior management of the UMNO Alliance is not the same as before. Yu Dongtian frowned in distress. This was actually a big problem. When his father was in seclusion to heal his injuries and Uncle Zwa was experiencing the world, only he and the couple were supporting him. Now, the couple was in charge in the southwest. The few grand wizards there had already fought several times, and his side was the most important and crucial part of the current situation. In the past few days, the Flood, which had gone crazy for some reason, she had been bursting with energy, wave after wave, as if she was crazy that what if he left and those grand wizards sensed the energy movement and took the opportunity to kill him. That would be terrible. But how could he be at ease if he did not go over? After thinking for a long time, he picked up the phone. Nan Zhengxian, are you okay now? Why don't you go to the Starlight Mountain Range? I just told Uncle Zwa, he said. He paused. Nan Zhengxian was complaining on the other end. I'm in charge in the capital, and there's also the matter of you fishing this time. I haven't even finished cleaning up the mess. How can I leave? Nan Zhengxian was full of bitterness. Besides, Brother Zwa has a daughter in the capital. I have to keep an eye on that girl all the time. How can I be at ease? If that girl is worried about her brother and runs over there, then I'm done for. That girl has already run away once. I chased her for 3,000 miles before coming back. I really can't do anything on my side. Nan Zhengxian's mouth was full of bitterness, but more or less, there was a hint of schadenfreude. There's no telepathy on Brother Zwa's side? Then it's fine. Besides, my doppelganger is on Xiaoduo's bodied up his sides. I'm in the capital, and there's no end to cleaning up the mess for you guys. None of you are afraid of making a big deal out of it. Shimin Lai just killed the Empress's nephew who violated the military law a few days ago. I'm still dealing with it here. What kind of trouble is this? Is the Empress's nephew someone you can kill just because you want to? If you want to kill him, then so be it. Why don't you clean up the mess yourself? If Shimin Lai doesn't come back, I'll have to bear the saliva on my face. It's not easy for me this time. It's Yu Dongtian's fault. You should go play by yourself. Besides, my doppelganger is already cleaning up the mess for you. You still want me to go over? After experiencing this internal turmoil, I won't stay in the capital anymore. I'll go back to the Southern Legion as soon as possible to be the commander. Whoever wants to come back can come back. When the time comes, I'll catch the relatives of the royal family and let you guys have a taste of cleaning up the mess. How awesome is that? Yu Dongtian was dumbfounded. He couldn't leave, but Nan Zhengxian didn't have time either. What should I do? Suddenly, he thought of something. Nan Zhengxian, you were blacklisted when you reported to Uncle Zhua. I suddenly remembered this. What did you report? Minister Nan paused for a moment, as if he was arranging work. Then, he hurriedly said, you can deal with it yourself. Then he hung up the phone. He wiped his cold sweat. How did I report it? Can I tell you? Yu Dongtian held the phone and listened to the busy tone. He smacked his lips and couldn't help but mutter, I'm definitely going to be the scapegoat. After thinking about it twice, he still had a headache, whether he was the scapegoat or not. As long as Xiao Duo was fine, it was fine. But who would go over today? He was really worried. So, he called again and said in a friendly voice, Iron River, where are you now? I'm at the Dao League. What's the matter, boss you? You're busy. Yu Dongtian hung up the phone, the corner of his mouth twitching. You're a blacksmith. Why are you running so far away? All of them were troublemakers. Say, if I had such awesome parents like Xiao Duo, wouldn't I be banned every day? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.